hours. I'm like, I'm not talking on the radio for 4 hours, but I do. Maybe that's a topic for later in the show too.
Yeah,
Usually
really
that's how it works out. If Billy and I have a debate on something, it turns into
this could be
good radio down the road. The weather today, it says sunny, not as cold. I'm not sure not as cold as what, maybe yesterday, but 47 degrees, burning ball of sun. That wasn't there yesterday. Again, the Channel 7 people thought it was something different on the pictogram yesterday. Today it's a big ball of fire. And then tomorrow we shoot up another 12 degrees to 59. Here's the problem. That's the top end. The bottom end doesn't change a lot. It goes from 28 to 32. And then Thursday, 63, Friday, 68. And then we kind of even out again in the low to mid 60s across Saturday through Monday, if you believe any of that stuff. I mean, you know, Billy, we might be due for another Lisa Hidalgo sighting. Just to have you ask her, have you improved your game at all?
I'll reach out.
Have you started to actually keep statistics on how well you do? And if not, why not? That would be transparency right there. We predicted this, and this is how it turned out. We should have the changing faces of weather prediction throughout the week. Like, this is what they said Friday would look like on Monday and Tuesday. And then what does it look like in the rearview mirror?
Yeah.
And I presume there would be people that lose jobs. But what do I know? I don't even know what a meteorologist makes.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of money, though.
It's probably a lot of money, and it makes me regret that choice. That and forensic mental health. If you are a forensic psychologist or psychiatrist, you bill an extraordinary amount of money to get people off the hook for their criminal conduct.
The other one is radiology. I mean, it should have done that.
Although that's sciencey, right?
Well, but think about it. Here's the deal. If you go into the medical field and you're a radiologist, you're basically like Dr. Light. I mean, you're not going
radiologist.
You're not going.
I think you're a real MD.
Oh yeah, you are absolutely. You get to wear the coat. You get the. Everybody has to call you doctor. Oh,
yes,
this is why
change stitch name.
Yes, sure. It is wonderful. You get all the perks of being the doctor. But think about it. You're not pulling any ER shifts. You're not going into surgery. You're not. The most things that would happen was your evening is disrupted because someone in the ER needs you to read some film. That's about it. I mean, all the grand scheme of things as far as all the doctory stuff you have to do. You're not in the office seeing patients all the time. You're not having patients.
You see patients a lot.
No, not with radiology. No.
Don't you think?
No, not in the least, because radiology is the bone cracking stuff. So what you do is you show up. No, you show up at the clinic. And the people that work at the clinic, who are the underlings, the minions show you around, and the minions put the big lead thing on you, and then the minions go behind the safety glass, and they push the button, they go, Beep,
oh, so you're saying they're just talking to other doctors about, hey, it's actually a screwdriver up there.
Exactly.
Or that's
you never actually interact with the radiologist. But they're there sometimes.
Don't you have an ER radiologist, though? Don't you have someone you have to have on call in case somebody comes in all accordion-bodied?
That is so difficult for them to go, ring, ring, ring. Can you look at this picture?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Let me put on my white coat. I mean, talk the easiest gig. It is the easiest doctor's gig.
But if you get it wrong and you say, no, that's not a break, that's a follicle or something,
less than if you're in surgery to get it wrong. I think that's the spleen.
Part's true. Although we've set the bar so low for medical malpractice.
Yes, we have.
I mean, it's like,
again,
the standard is ridiculous.
You want to be a doctor, you get the doctor paycheck, you get the white coat. Everybody has to call you doctor, and you look at pictures of bones. It is a scam.
I should have done
horrible.
It's almost
wonderful.
Do they get paid a lot, radiologists?
Yes, they get paid just like the other doctors.
Well,
yes,
but not all doctors get paid the same.
They make enough monies to join the country clubs and have more than 3-car garages. I know that much.
Like internal medicine or pediatricians, they don't make a lot of money in the doctor world.
Yeah.
You want to rock it, you're going to be in plastic surgery.
Yeah, you're going to be in surgery. You got to do
orthopedic surgeon. Yeah. Those dudes are like the jocks of medicine, right?
Radiology does well. You take money in it. That is the one. Do that if you know.
It says right here, this is a text. Most hospitals have outsourced their radiologists to India. Cheaper with digital images sent to them.
I told you. See, it's easy. You're just looking at pictures.
How do we know the Indian people know how to do the radiology?
I have no idea. We're just trusting.
Well, I feel like that's another area. Jobs I should have taken might be a topic for the day at some point here. Jobs I wish I had. The forensic psychology and psychiatry piece I like because it has the illusion of medicine. It has the illusion of science.
Yeah.
where at the end of the day, you could have two people sitting right next to each other who all studied the same stuff, went to the same school, same degree, and have remarkably different opinions about the exact same evidence. And it's like, yeah, that feels just like science.
Yeah, it does.
Like, how many times do doctors walk in and go, that's the femur? And the other doctor goes, nope, that's the elbow.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that to me seems like a fact, a medical fact. These guys come in and go, it's schizophrenia. And the other person goes, no, it's bipolar.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait
a minute. Yeah. That's a good idea. So you can never really be wrong. It's not a bad idea.
It's so subjective.
Get paid lots of money to just
huge coin. This dude that was originally going to be the public defenders, one of their sentencing experts was a guy named Shauna Garker out of Atlanta, I think. Yeah. Dude, I interviewed him over the phone. He insisted on having the public defender on the call for the interview. Well, what do I care? I mean, I got no secrets. And so at one point I just asked him, I'm like, hey doc, can you tell me what did you bill the public defenders to fly out here from Atlanta and do your voodoo? And he said, oh, I gave him the discounted government rate. And I said, oh, what's the discounted government rate? He goes, it's $400 an hour. And I said, hang on. What's the not discounted government rate? And he goes, oh, that's $600 an hour for civil and private. And I go, immediately I regretted being an attorney for even 10 seconds. And I said, well, doc, how much have you billed on this case so far? And he goes, I said, what's your total bill thus far? He goes, right now, and I'm sure he's looking at something. He goes, it's about 100,000. I said, hang on. Yeah. That's, by the way, our tax money.
Yeah.
That, by the way, will never be revealed because the public defenders are part of the judicial branch who do not have CORA apply to them. So we'll never, I'm telling you what I heard this guy say, $100,000. Well, I do the quick math. I'm like, well, 400 goes into 100,000, something with a 25 in front of it. Let's call it 250 hours, right? Jeez. What have you done or whatever it is? For that. Wait a minute. Is it 25? 250 hours, something like that. I said, what have you done for that?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I've flown back and forth to Colorado a couple times and met with him in the jail. I'm like, how many of those hours is that? Like, do you count the flight time and all that stuff? Like, that seems wasteful.
Yeah, when you get in the Uber, does the clock start? What happens?
But even if you give him, let's say, 100 hours, which is crazy talk, right? That's like almost 4 full days. That's 4 full days, let's say. Well, what'd you do with the rest of the time? He goes, well, they've asked me, because it was all live streamed across the planet and stuff. They've asked me to sit here and watch the other experts testify. I'm like, okay, and to do what? And he's like, well, to assess whether or not they made glaring mistakes or whether their opinions were blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And I said, well, what's your opinion? You've watched them all for now, apparently close to 150 hours or whatever. What's your opinion? Which, by the way, 150 hours, think about how much court watching that is. Jeez. And he goes, I don't really have a great deal of issue with what they've said or done. And at that moment, I knew this guy will never testify because the public defender's listening to this and she's like, thank you. So we just dropped taxpayers 100 G's at least on this guy for a phone call to the district attorney. That's it. Wow. Never saw him in court. And I thought, how am I not a forensic psychiatrist?
Yeah, you win. You get the best free job.
What the hell is that?
That beats my radiology. Wow.
$100,000. Wow. And that's just one thing.
To not even testify.
To not even testify. It was, I don't know.
My brain hurts. I'm a little sad right now.
But it makes me feel like meteorology could be added to that list. Like jobs I wish I had pursued.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no quality control there.
No, not at all. And all you have to do is be likable, which is much easier for you than me.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, yeah. Much easier. That's true. Much easier. No.
Yeah. You'd have to get outside the house for that one.
Yeah, I know. I keep losing that. It's like the Calvin and Hobbes. I keep getting notified by the kids that my polling is going negative, that I'm underwater with my approval ratings.
Yeah. Speaking of approval ratings, it is Halloween.
Yes, it is, sir.
And I don't know where that holiday ranks anymore because now that the kids
wearing my Billy hat.
I see the Billy hat.
I'm cosplaying today. I'm a different Billy.
Yeah, which Billy?
Billie Eilish.
That's it. You're Billie Eilish today? You know, from a distance, and by a distance, I mean past the curvature of the earth. You look just like Billie Eilish.
If you've had just enough tequila and are about 1.5 miles away from
and
me,
a blindfold.
I have a shocking resemblance.
Yeah, well, hat does it.
Yeah, this is my Billie Eilish world tour. So I just think it's funny that it's a Billy hat.
It's not quite the same spelling,
no,
but
not
also
at all,
pretty good.
But still fun.
But now that my youngest is 13, and they're just not. I don't know. They're not doing the trick or treating thing the same way anymore. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. My 16-year-old Jeffy, there was a trunk or treat thing at Rock Canyon yesterday.
Yeah.
No interest. He was like, nah, no thanks. Trey, of course, is up at CSU. I don't know what the hell they do up there. Amanda's in the Middle East. I don't think they do. I think, that's not
Halloween. Halloween is an American thing. It's very funny because I listen to a number of video game podcasts, and these people are assembled from elsewhere around the world. And one of the funniest guys on this podcast is a guy out of Australia. Now, again, on a side note, one of the gimmicks is every podcast episode, he has to regale the audience with some sort of stupid Australian fact, something weird. Yeah. And I've learned a lot of weird things. They declared war on the emus at one point, but that's a different story.
Like Joey's have soft hands. Or
there
was
an emu war in Australia.
And really? Who won?
The emus.
The emus won?
Yes, they did. It's a long story, but it's very funny. It is hilarious. What? Yes, it is hilarious. The military.
Did the emus disarm them?
Let's just say they won it. They won because of numbers and very poor ideas about how you're gonna have to shoot an emu. So yeah, they had an infestation. It was a problem. So it was very funny. But this guy in Australia talks about all the stuff that they don't have that Americans have that we just assume they do, because most of the people on the podcast are Americans, and they don't have Halloween. It has just become big in Australia over the last decade, and you rarely see anything. In fact, no decorations, anything else, but there have been enough Americans that have moved there that in certain pockets and certain neighborhoods, you see it. And he felt very bad. He said a number of years ago, little American kid in the neighborhood that they know came to their door and knocked. And he's like, I didn't have anything. He goes, I don't have candy. He goes, what am I supposed to do? He goes, what am I supposed to give
him
her?
Some Vegemite?
Yeah, exactly. Give her a spoon. I mean, what do you do? So, yeah, it's kind of funny.
Stand right here. I have a leftover sandwich in the fridge. I hope you're into spam.
Although he does, it was funny. He did say that there is a very interesting college drinking game that I'm a little jealous I didn't get a chance to play when I was younger. And what they do is, they're not afraid of boxed wine. And again, college kids, again, they don't worry about it. So what they do is, you've seen those clotheslines. And grandma and grandpa used to have
appreciate that you struggled with the word clothesline. Like you were pantomiming that thing out.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm describing it because it's not just the line itself. It's the circle. It's a circular one.
I know what you're talking about.
Then would blow in the wind.
Yeah.
So you've seen those. Very popular in Australia for them to dry their clothes. The college kids get the bag of wine and you attach it to the clothesline, and then you spin it. And then when it stops in front of you, you have to drink for a certain amount of time.
Spin the bottle in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was laughing. He said, he goes, well, at the end, he goes, after whoever finishes most of the wine eventually passes out, and you just go into the bag and you inflate it and you got a pillow.
Oh,
he's like, you got a ready-made pillow there.
Louise.
I'm like, that's very smart.
That is very smart. Yeah. I don't know if we've missed the boat, by the way, but we have a texture here, disappointed. How about some haunted history and paranormal activity discussion? I gave it no thought. I didn't think at all to prepare for this scary stuff.
I didn't do that because that's Pete's wheelhouse.
I remember.
He went to the haunted house places, and
Pete used to spend the night in places, and then ghosts of girlfriends past would show up.
Yeah, I was on a number of those with him.
Yeah,
and some were good. One almost got me fired.
Wait a minute.
Close.
Because it was your house.
No, it's because I broke something.
Yeah,
I was very stupid. I broke, and it was very, very, very expensive. To this day, I am still surprised that I was gainfully employed after doing this, because I broke not only
wind.
No, I broke part of the property, and I broke some of the equipment. Very expensive piece of equipment for the radio station. It was awful, and it was early in my career. And again, I cannot believe that I was still gainfully employed. I shied away from doing the Pete thing because that's his thing. I felt like if we came on and we did, talk to Dr. Colorado, to Tom Noel, people like that were aping what Pete does.
Same thing with the Thanksgiving Day parade. I'd feel completely comfortable doing it with Pete, where Pete's running the show and I'm just kind of sitting there saying stupid stuff.
Yep.
But I don't want to take the man's gig.
No, and it's odd that you say that, because for the last 72 hours, I've been kicking that around in my head. I'm like, what are we going to do at Thanksgiving? What do we do at
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I've been kicking it around, going, because we got to start thinking about it. And we got to plan with him if we're going to. And what does it look like? Is it the whole show? Is it part of the show? I think we do it. But how do we do it? And what's the execution? And so, I've already been having a little stress of that one. And that's why we didn't do some of that haunted, stuff around Colorado, because it's what Pete does. And I feel like he'd be ripping him off.
It just feels like that's not right. We should come up with our own Halloween thing.
Yeah, we should.
To the extent that we think we're going to be here next Halloween, we should probably have a plan.
Yes, we probably should.
For what that looks like, because a year is so long, so long. So Texter, I appreciate that, but
I do appreciate it.
Be candid, I never once for a moment thought we need to come up with a Halloween related topic, although we do have one.
I did, but I did the haunted stuff. Yeah, we do have one, and this is we'll talk about that at the 7 o'clock.
We do. We have an actual Halloween topic.
Yeah.
It's not scary.
No, well,
unless you're spending money. It's a little scary. It's a little scary.
Now, on a side note, as a kid, we'll delve into this a little bit later. Just as a tease. Don't discuss it right now, but your favorite Halloween costume
that I wore.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Okay, well, think about it. We'll tease that for later, and I'd love to hear everybody else's. What are the favorite ones, and then what was the one you look back and you're like, oh, that was I appreciate my parents went through. I mean, they did a lot of homemaking of things. Oh my God,
and you just said hoe, and I was like, oh my gosh,
a lot of stuff that they crafted a lot of things. In fact, because again, I'm a weird.
A lot
kid.
of people don't give a crap.
No,
and that's
I'm a that is very sad. I'm a weird kid, obviously, and so the year that that Star Wars came out, I was a Tusken Raider.
77.
Yeah, I was a Tusken Raider.
They wrapped you up in like face bandages and stuff like that?
What I found is I found a plastic sand people mask, at the little stupid thing in the back. So I had that thing. And then it was basically my dad had taken a burlap sack. That was when I realized that was one of the itchiest things in the entire planet. I walked around all night in that.
That's right.
That choice on my part.
Underwear.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. It's the ride's up and
it's not comfortable at all.
And he did that and created kind of a bandolier, and I still have it at home. He had some sort of a staff or a stick, and he had taken wires and taken a couple other metal parts and crafted the stick for the stand people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I still have it at home because the top of it has kind of a hook on top of it, and it's really helpful at like reaching tall things and flicking things on and off. And
your costume from a billion years ago.
Yeah, and so I can open up our swamp cooler where it sits. That's the perfect thing to open the flaps for the swamp cooler. It works
your Banta
so well.
stick.
Yes, works so well, and it's something my dad made for me when I was like 10. So
that's super sweet of him.
It was really cool. It was really cool. I got a lot of those. I've got.
Are your kids going to participate? I mean, that's the thing. I
two of them, yes. Yeah, the two girls are. They are.
And will they go in your neighborhood, or do they hang out with each other and set fire to things?
Not sure yet. It looks like that things are up in the air. Because there's a little tension between the two girls in the household right now. And so
over what issue? Do tell.
I don't know, but there was yelling over the weekend. And so
was there?
Yeah, there was in the rooms. And so I came up and I'm like, calm down this. And well, she's gonna no, we're gonna settle this. And so
did you do it in the Star Trek way, like a knife in the middle of the room, and you tied their ankles together and play that bum 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 bum?
Here you go. One of you will make it out. The other one will not. And so there's a little bit of tension there. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be hanging out together. Our oldest is going to be going and just hanging out and watching scary movies with friends at their house. And the younger one might be going trick-or-treating, might not be. I'm not too sure. So we'll see. But they both have assembled costumes. So
what's the rest of the Thorpe household look like on Halloween? Do you answer the door? And to do it, do you get all dressed up?
It depends on my wife. Normally, my wife really enjoys that one, and she gets dressed up. So she's normally the one in charge of that. And Can you reveal what she's going to dress up? I have no idea what she's going to be. I have a feeling, looking at what was around the room, is it's going to be a female version of Freddy Krueger, is what it looks like.
Oh wow!
Yeah. One of my daughters found the Freddy Krueger sweater at a thrift store about 2 years ago. Identical sweater.
Really?
Yeah, and it's worn, so it has little rips and tears in it. It looks fantastic. It looks great. And so
little scary.
That was out. That was kind of set out. So I think that's what the theme is going to be this year for her. She enjoys that one. I'm normally in charge of walking the kids around the neighborhood when they were younger, which was good because we've told you that we have kind of an event that goes around our neighborhood.
Yeah. That's pretty cool when you got the neighborhood thing going.
Oh yeah, well the neighborhood, the guys 2 doors down set up the adult station and the kid station.
I love that. I love the hot toddies and I love the drink or treat or whatever.
It's like there is one 8-foot long table that is all kids' juices and snacks and cookies and candy.
and then there's a 30-foot table of alcohol.
The other 8-foot long one is liquor. it is. They're minimum 15 bottles on there with cups, and you've got mixers, and you've got ice, and yeah, it is fantastic.
Nothing says Halloween like getting your drink on with your
Exactly.
costumed kids.
Yep, walking around. Yes. So our neighborhood does it good, and they have a thing about everybody getting into the driveway and kind of hanging out, and and
I hope the weather's good because according to our special sheet
cold.
here, it looks like it's going to be a low of 28.
Yeah, I have a feeling everything's going to be moving in. Yeah, I have a feeling most people are going to be inside.
Everybody could dress up like Cartman and be very warm for the holidays. But
I did that. I think I've told the story before. I did that. There was one I was dressed as Superman, and it was snowing. And my mom was not going to let me go out in the Superman costume. I had to wear my snow pants underneath. And so I ended up looking
You were 15 at the time.
Yeah. No. I ended up looking like Superman with a gland problem. It's not good. It's like, Superman's got a thyroid issue. That's not good. Yeah.
You were a Kardashian down south.
Like,
was that
I'm just like waddling around like this. And I still remember that.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And of course, you're like, Mom, this is not Superman. Superman doesn't wear a winter coat. It's shut up. And she's like, just put it on, and otherwise, and she's like, you're not going to get frostbite, and I'm not going to have to take you to the hospital after. This is not nice, Mom.
The other remarkable thing about this day is it serves as a reminder that we're now going to be in November. Like when you and I meet again tomorrow, it will be friggin' November.
Yeah, it's scary.
Buddy, that's the month where you have limited productivity as you get past the second week, because you're into Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Then after Thanksgiving, you're thinking, how do I spend myself into debt? You go full on United States government. I have to deficit spend because it's Black Friday. And although we'll talk about that too, that's become very different.
It really has. I think the bloom has kind of fallen off the Black Friday road.
It has. It's become almost entirely online. Like gone are the days of the Sharks versus the Jets moments in a Best Buy, as people struggle over this single.
Did you have any of those? Did you ever get out to the stores and do the?
I went out to a store once.
Yeah,
that was it, buddy. I've been online shopping for Christmas
my finger.
Since it was You've Got Mail. I've been doing as much online back when there was buy.com and these other things. I'm just trying to buy as much online as possible because holy hell, man. People are problems, especially when they're shopping.
Yeah. You know me that I go for the deals. And so
you are a deal guy.
Yeah. Back when Black Friday was hot and heavy, there were some things. I'd go out and I found some great things. Over the course of the years, a couple of amazing deals on televisions. I mean, ridiculously good deals. In surround sound stereo system, did a PlayStation one year that was really good.
Excellent 5-track player.
Yeah. It was the surround sound system. It was actually 5 discs. Yeah, it has a 5-disc player in it, but it was it was a great value.
Back when the multi-disc player was the thing, and it was the turntable one. That
it was big turntable. Although it was a secret in the house, because I could not tell the children that it held 5 discs.
Really?
Because the children. They come over and they want to open it, and they keep putting a new one in every time. Yeah. If I told them it would hold 5, we would be rotating things all the time.
Yeah, the mechanics of the thing are the fun part for the kids. Yeah.
It was at least, we had that thing at least 6 or 7 years before any of them found out it held more than 1 disc. And that to me was a personal victory, because I know how many of the VHS tapes and things I had to replace because of
Here's a hard punch from a texter. A year is not that long on your show, sir. After all, you only work about 20 of the 52 weeks. All of a sudden, they've turned me into an educator. No, that's not true. I'm on every week.
Yeah,
mostly.
Yeah, and to be fair, work is really doing a lot of lifting in that sentence.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate what it takes to come in this marginally prepared.
Oh yeah.
Like I wake up in the 3 o'clock hour because I cannot sleep anymore.
Yeah.
And then I'm on my damn phone the whole time, scrolling through stories, looking for things, texting Billy, can we get sound on this? And so by the time 10 o'clock rolls around, I've been rocking this thing for 6.5 hours.
Oh,
You longer.
Yeah.
You longer.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. On the weekends when I'm doing the radio stuff for Westwood One, I will have been up for hours. And then my wife or my son will get up or someone mosey downstairs. And I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm like that cat. Like, what are you doing? Can we talk now? You're the first adult I've seen. Yeah. And I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee.
And they're squinting through the light like,
they're like, stop talking so much. There are times my wife turns to me and she'll go, 3rd or 4th cup of coffee this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
I went straight math, honey.
Yeah.
I just mainline math.
Yeah.
The other thing Billy does that I don't have to do is he does all the good stuff we're about to get into with the radio. He does the Thorpe report. That doesn't generate itself. Although, have we thought about AI?
I've thought about it, but
I don't know if it can do it.
I'm not
And
sure.
then, of course, you choose the news is the AI killer because
is.
I don't think AI can do humor. I'm just not sure it
No.
can't do that kind of
can't yet.
nuance, the inflection.
No.
And when AI finally becomes self-aware and takes us over, that will be the litmus test. It won't be
Yes,
dogs sniffing
no.
out robots. It'll be
No.
to tell a joke.
Yeah, can you tell a joke?
Can you tell a
Make it
joke?
funny.
And if you can make me laugh, you live. If you can't, then you probably end up being a
Exactly.
robot or something.
That's exactly. We got some good ones here too.
But it takes time to do that. That doesn't just happen in 5 minutes. So Billy's at this for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the part that I don't know that people are, despite the fact that you and I talk about it all the time, this is not the only job.
No.
This is just one of many jobs.
Yes. Both of us go off and do other things after this throughout the day. Yeah.
I would love it if I could end this and go work out. Maybe read a book, maybe take a nap, maybe just stroll around and see what's going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
No.
There's every single moment it feels like of the day. If I'm in the car, I'm on a Zoom call for this business that I do consulting for. If I'm at home, I'm on a Zoom call or I'm typing up. There's just no.
Oh yeah.
What am I going to do with the next hour? You know what I mean? There's just none of that.
Yeah, there's none of that. There's none. There are TV shows and things that I'm like, I'm so far behind. I need to get to because I can't get to it. And that's the thing is, it is a gift and a curse because when you're done at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're like, I have the whole day, but you fill the whole day with other stuff that has to make you the monies. So, because that oddly enough, you don't get independently wealthy anymore.
I'd say the downtime for me is folding laundry with the TV on. Like if it's football. I can watch football while I'm folding laundry.
Yeah. I'll stream stuff. And
beyond that, there's just very little. I'm not sure I'd know what to do if I could just sit and watch something on the screen. I'd feel like I'm missing something. Like what am I not doing that needs to get done?
The only time I do that, I carve it out is for soccer. I even multitask.
Well, soccer is your religion.
Yeah, it is. It's during NFL games. I even multitask. I'm doing one or two things during the NFL games. But when soccer comes on, the earth stops. Yeah, that is one where it's like, nope.
I think what we'd each like is if this job paid old school wages, back in the day, then maybe I could just go home after this, or I could work out and shed some of this winter weight that I've been carrying around for a year.
I'm getting festively plump, as Cartman says.
The other thing we don't get is, man, we don't I can take time. Like folks are like, hey, you weren't on the radio last week. You did your fall break thing. That's right. That means I don't get paid. That's not like I don't have built up vacation for this. This is you don't do the live reads. You get no money, dude. That's just how it works.
Yeah, this is a pay for play thing where it's you're not here. It's not. There's not built up.
This ain't a government job.
Yeah, that's why I don't take any time off. That's why
you rarely take any time off. That's true.
Yeah. I have a couple of things that I'm planning for right around Christmas time. I'll probably be gone for a bit, but that's it. I don't take any time off. Yeah, I don't take any other time
when
off.
You're gone, it's just more difficult. Not because we don't have a great bench. It's just a different bench.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's the thing that people also don't understand is that much like a dance partner, this is something like a pitcher and a catcher. This is something like a wide receiver.
I for sure am the pitcher.
Yes, you are. But it's that relationship that there is this expectation about what's going on and what's going to happen. And and when you have a different dance partner, it's harder.
It's different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, even if she's more attractive.
Yeah, exactly.
But what can you do with that?
I know.
Listen, speaking of all the good work that you do on a morning basis, that largely gets unpaid for. I think you don't get a special bonus for being awesome in the 6 o'clock hour.
No, not at all.
We could just have white noise on in the 6. It would pay the same as the great work that you do.
Yes.
But we're going to prove the great work by cutting away for a break. Then we're going to come back and get to the good stuff. Well, that's not true. The depressing stuff. That's the Thorpe Report. Waiting for that Thorpe Report, by the way, where I come away going, I feel better about my fellow man. Probably not going to be this one. And then we get into the stuff that actually makes you feel good. That's called the You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Little Steve Miller Band right here on 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show where we get to be made exceedingly depressed about our fellow man and perhaps our own lots in life through the uplifting news reporting of one William Thorpe. Billy?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we got a very dry air mass that's remaining over our state. That means it's going to be a little chilly tonight. The high temperature systems should approach later in the week, getting to mid-60s by Sunday or so. So today, sunny, not as cold. 45 is going to be our high, overnight low 26. Tomorrow, 54, 60 on Thursday, and 62 by Friday. Now that the summer solstice has passed, our state is going to continue to lose precious minutes of sunlight each and every day. Yes, just as of yesterday, it was the last time we will see the sun set at 6 o'clock or later. It now is going to set earlier and earlier throughout the winter.
Buddy, 15 seconds ago, it was the last time we'd see it set at 7.
Yeah, so now it's going to be in the 5 o'clock hours when sunset is going to occur. Yeah. Elsewhere, this is an odd story. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we know more about the 20-year-old man that was found dead in a bathroom in an amusement park in Glenwood Springs on Saturday.
Weird.
Yeah, he had multiple guns, loaded magazines, and several explosive devices. There were words written on a bathroom stall where he was found that said, "I am not a killer." Garfield County Sheriff's Office responded on Saturday morning to a report of the deceased man in the Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park. It appeared that he illegally entered the park after hours and was waiting around. Don't know what the motive was, still unclear. Sheriff could not confirm whether or not the man wrote the statement, "I am not a killer." Coroner's office identified the man as Diego Barajas Medina. He said he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, is what it appears right now. Coroner's office is investigating the death as a suicide. A man is from the Carbondale area. He was dressed in black-colored tactical clothing, bearing patches and emblems that, at a distance, would have given the appearance of being associated with law enforcement. Not saying he had law enforcement patches, just saying that he placed them on his clothing in order, at first glance, that he would appear that way if he created some sort of a diversion or something that was loud, and he can, direct people a certain direction. He had a semi-automatic rifle, a handgun, multiple loaded magazines, and an improvised explosive device, an IED. He had body armor and had a ballistic helmet as well. Okay. Also, and the firearms were ghost guns. That's another one there, too. So kind of an odd thing.
That is an odd thing.
Yeah. A man has been arrested in connection to the fatal shooting that happened October 18th at the 2300 block of North Broadway near the intersection with Park Avenue West. Shooting happened about 1 o'clock in the morning. They announced they arrested a suspect on Monday, 32-year-old Mario Chester. Chester is charged with first-degree murder and weapons charges. There is a woman who was arrested after a man was fatally shot in a Westminster parking lot on Sunday evening. Officers dispatched to the 1200 block of 120th Avenue around 7 in the evening. When they arrived, man suffering from a gunshot wound is what they found, taken to the hospital, and he died. The Adams County Coroner's Office is going to release the man's identity later.
Wow.
A Denver firefighter is facing 2 charges of domestic violence following an incident in Colorado Springs. He was arrested October 17th. Was charged with trespass and a couple other things. According to Denver Fire, he was hired in 2020 and assigned to Station 28. Internal Affairs now has the case.
That's not good.
No, not good at all. Porter Hospital in Denver is closed. Some patients are being transferred to other hospitals.
Closed?
Boiler system failed yesterday. So the failure caused lots of loss of hot water. According to Advent Health, emergency boiler is currently en route. It's going to be installed as soon as possible, but if that's a necessity, they're going to move patients to other hospitals.
That can't be free, by the way.
No, not at all.
Huge ticket.
Yeah, huge ticket. Huge ticket to get there. And, University of Colorado football players are reporting that jewelry was stolen from their locker room during the game against UCLA.
Wait, there was crime in L.A.?
I'm shocked. Yes, especially on campus. After the Buffaloes lost to the Bruins, multiple players said personal jewelry they left in their locker room had disappeared. Colorado head coach Deion Sanders didn't address the subject during his post-game press conference. As a former college athlete, not at the level that CU is playing at, but that was a rule. You did not bring your jewelry on the road. You don't bring your valuables on the road. Never, 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 never. You never leave valuables in the opposing locker room. Ever. You never.
I never brought mine.
We they walked us through that on the team and said, when we travel, do not bring jewelry. Do not bring anything that is valuable. Yeah, just because we don't know the security procedures, we don't know what's going on there.
But the other team is full of bastards, so that if something bad's going to happen, it'll be on their turf.
Absolutely it is. And Nikola Jokic had 27 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds for his second triple-double of the season last night. Jamal Murray, 18 points, 14 assists.
Something else remarkable.
Yeah.
That's his 107th triple double.
Well, thanks for ruining the
sorry.
the tagline there. I appreciate
Go ahead.
that.
Sorry.
No,
I
all
stepped
yours.
all over you. No, there's more to tell,
No,
and I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to sit back. Nope, that's it. I've made my mistake. I apologize for it, and I will just sit here and stare through the glass.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is 107th career triple double. Why is that important? Who is he now tied with? LeBron James and Jason Kidd.
It's pretty big, man.
Yeah, when you get to try with LeBron for triple doubles in a career and you're still playing, dude.
Not only are you still playing, but I think he did it in 5 minutes or something.
Exactly.
I mean, what the heck?
Done. I saw a conversation with this rookie, big time rookie. It wasn't the Wembanyama guy, but I think guy playing at Oklahoma City, and he had played against Jokic, and it was a hometown interview, and the guy's asking like, "How did you do it?" And he goes, dude does some stuff I've never seen before.
I know.
And they're like, and he goes, he's really intelligent. He does stuff. He goes, you're just not prepared. He goes, he said, I've never played against another basketball player that looks at the game the way he does.
Yeah.
He said, he does stuff that you don't anticipate, that you don't think he's going to do. He just sees it differently. He goes, I've never played against someone like that.
The way he can see the court and the movement on it, and it feels like it slows down for him. Like it's the Matrix, the final scene in the Matrix. Like he sees all the little numbers. But also, he's not a graceful, pretty player.
No,
you know what I mean? He has a little bit of Larry Bird in him, but the dude just, I don't know. He throws things around. They go to people and in baskets, and
that's what makes it amazing. You think about like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not necessarily graceful, but smooth.
Yeah,
and Jokic has the same thing. Jokic is smooth, but not graceful.
Not at all.
He's very smooth in his movements, but not graceful at all. Did you see the alley-oop the other night?
No.
So, okay. Jokic is taking the ball out of bounds on what is just roughly the parallel to the free throw line. So in Denver, in Denver courtside, standing, roughly where the free throw line is. Ref hands him the ball. He doesn't wait 1 second. He turns in just one motion, throws it at the other basket.
Across the court.
Anthony Gordon is waiting there, grabs it, and dunk. I was like, dude.
Yeah, my guess is teams will now be prepared for that move.
I was like, wow.
Who can throw it that far that accurately? Like
that accurate. And the thing was, it was just effortless. It was like, here's the ball. Just took it. He didn't wind up, nothing. Just
unbelievable.
Like, wow.
I watched him in the paint yesterday on some of the ESPN clips. I didn't get to watch the game.
Yeah.
And the dude that was trying to draw the offensive charge that couldn't, but people bounce off of him.
Yes.
Like it's rubber bullets being shot at a tank. Like bing, 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 boom, boom, boom. And people just, there's nothing they can do to stop this guy.
God, he's incredible to watch. I just wish we get to watch him more. But
I wish we got to watch him more too, but it's incredible, man. These guys look really quite good.
Yeah.
Very scary.
If you know what's okay? Speaking of scary, the time that we got here looks kind of scary.
Oh, for God's sake, buddy. Once again, we've nuggets our way. Signing off until we come back. Billy's going to move some things around. We're either going to be back in minutes or seconds. Don't know yet. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Heads up, it is You Choose the News with Billy T.
Yes, sir. We're using a little Billie Eilish there in the background for us as our You Choose the News music this morning. Yes,
Great.
It is time to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show with spooky music. It is time for You Choose the News. Yes, we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments to discover some really stupid stories and giving them dumb headlines to play this fake radio news game. Alrighty, sir, here are your headlines. Headline number 1, really? In 2023. Headline number 2, cult starter kit. Headline number 4, in a twist, social media suspends government accounts. And headline number 4, hero goes unrewarded. Your headlines yet again. Cult starter kit. Yes, we're going to travel to New Jersey. Technically 198 Locktown Flemington Road in New Jersey. Now, what about that is special? Well, for $650,000, you can start your own cult. Yes, that this luxury is meeting history with this incredible find. It's a magnificent transformation of a 19th century house of worship into a residence with all your modern conveniences. Plus, it has a huge great room, a tower with a bell, endless views of preserved farmland, and its own cemetery. Yes, for $650,000, you can live in a former church with a cemetery, just in case you want to start a cult. You know, for Halloween.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
It is.
Is there a forensic cult? Because it could pay more.
There we go. Yes, it could, but a lot more. All right, second choice. Really in 2023, in a twist, or hero goes unrewarded?
Hero.
Hero goes unrewarded. We are traveling to San Francisco, and we are meeting a vigilante. He brands himself as the Chinatown Cowboy, which should be your first indication this is going to go weird. Now, recently, he was at a diner, and he says that he saw a man steal money out of the till. He then ran down the street. The Chinatown Cowboy leapt into action. Says he chased the man for nearly a mile while the man was shedding dollars, throwing them into the air. But he had a mission to capture the scufflaw. So he chased him down and captured him near a BART station eventually. And he returned to the restaurant the next day and said, I caught the guy. I'm a hero. Can I has cheeseburger? And they said, no, you're being stupid about this. And he goes, but I chased this guy down. He'd stolen all the money. And they said, well, no, actually, that was a homeless dude that took $2 off a tip jar. We're not giving you a free hamburger because you chased a guy for a mile for $2. That's on you, buddy. And now he's all mad. Now he's all butthurt and he's mad. And he started a GoFundMe and he's gotten $7,000 from people donating to him because he chased down a homeless man over $2.
But no hamburger.
No hamburger.
I will gladly harass a homeless man Tuesday for
yes,
a hamburger today.
Yes. Okay. Your final choice. Really in 2023 or in a twist, social media suspends government accounts?
Social media.
Yes, this is a twist, and it comes to us from Los Angeles, California. As specifically, the Los Angeles Police Department. They were shocked recently when they got a notice from YouTube that their channel was suspended. Yes, YouTube suspended the LA Police Department channel. Why?
Funny.
For being too violent.
Oh, yeah. I read this one. This is good.
Yes. So the videos that they posted were just too violent. There was an attack and some things that happened. Yeah, I've seen the video. But
are these videos of the cops doing the violence?
Well, no, this one was them. They're getting involved. It was people attacking each other.
I just love the idea that this is what the public's engaged in with each other. And YouTube's like, oh, no, we can't put that out for the public to see.
No, we can't have that. And suspend the police account. That only thing is the funny part is the whole idea is we're thinking about the government coming in and saying, no, social media, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. And social media going, yeah, you're suspended.
Yeah, you are. The truth is too violent.
Yes, the truth of what is going on in the streets of LA is way too violent. We can't let people see the reality. That would be silly. Why would we do that?
Also, another disturbing fact I heard on a podcast that 50% of like the Gen Zers get their news from TikTok.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Brother.
Probably true.
Dang.
Very
hey,
sad.
listen, we're going to cut away for a break. It's the end of that first hour, the fun hour. We're going to come back. Billy and I have two topics that we're going to Rochambeau over before we come back. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710, KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's the second hour of 4. At 10 o'clock, Charlie Kirk. Then we get Dennis Prager at 11. Seb Gorka comes on at 1. All of those are national dudes. And then we go with a local dudette. It's Deb Flora from 3 to 4. And then 4 to 7, Stephen Tubbs. This is the last Tuesday Stephen Tubbs will ever be the host of a radio show. He could be on the radio again, so I didn't say it that broadly. If you have not yet listened to Stephen Tubbs, there's simply no reason to start now because he only has a few days left. If you fall in love with the show, you're going to be screwed. You'll only have the podcasts, and who wants to do that? I'm kidding. This is it, man. We are in, it's 3 days and a wake up is how I think the military would call it, because on that fourth day, that's it. On Friday, it's Stephen's last day. There will probably be celebrations in the streets. I know that I think Mayor Hancock in particular is throwing a special party in whatever part of Florida he lives in now. But that's from 4 to 7. Tune in, get it while you can, because after that, starting on Monday, it goes national again, although with Arizona, and that's the Brandon Tatum show. Officer Brandon Tatum will be on. Guy apparently has quite a following on the social medias and whatnot. So I'm going to tune in too. I know who the guy is. I've heard little snippets here and there. I've never listened to a whole show. That's going to change, obviously, once Stephen leaves, because I'll need to have somebody keep me company while I'm driving around in those afternoon hours. And you should be tuning in today to listen to Stephen. I think he begins crying. I think he indicated, Billy, today was the day he would begin crying on air at the end. That will push back. Like right now, he'll only cry in the 6 o'clock hour. By Friday, he will cry through the entire show. And it's going to be magical if you haven't paid attention. Now, listen, I want to talk about a topic here. It's local, but it's got national implications. And it's something that we started the conversation about yesterday, just in passing. And it started with the recognition that a trial began in Denver. No, it's not the McLean case, although that's going on too. And I've been told that they expect the prosecution will wrap up their case on Friday. Don't know what the defense is going to do. But no, this is a different case. This is a case involving whether or not the state of Colorado is going to ban Donald Trump from showing up on our ballots next year for President of the United States, because of a violation because of, I guess, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Now, we've discussed that section before. We've gone into all that. I've even talked to some smart attorneys about it, including our friend Chris Murray, super lawyer. But now this is the rubber meets the road. There's a lawsuit by 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And I don't know where they count Krista, who's a friend. I don't know if because she's unaffiliated, I think. I don't think she's a Republican. I don't know how they count her. But nonetheless, this lawsuit now is in district court in Denver. And there was a reference by Dave Williams, chair of the GOP yesterday, that she is a pretty brand new judge. And now she's got the biggest case, potentially in the state in a long time. And it has national ramifications. And that's true. So it got me looking, but not just me. There's reporting on this. And you should go to Colorado Politics and check out this article. I then did my own independent research, and it's interesting. It's just very interesting where we're at. And I want to begin by saying nothing I'm about to tell you means that the judge is not going to do the job she's supposed to do. Not saying that at all. What I am saying is there is just enough going on here that if your concern was whatever the outcome is here, if it's negative to Donald Trump, that people could at least embrace the decision as having been impartially made. I think there's problems here with this. Now, let me begin with just this, a little bit of background about the judge. And she sounds eminently qualified. One, she graduated from the University of Colorado School of Law. Go Buffs. That tells me she is within the top 1% of all brains, because only the best go to CU Law School. That's what I've been told while I was at CU Law School. She has been an attorney since 2000 here in the state of Colorado, licensed attorney in Colorado. She graduated in 99 from law school. She started her career clerking for, I think, a Supreme Court judge down in New Mexico. And then she came back to Colorado, I believe, and was a partner, became an associate, then became a partner in a law firm, and then became a partner in another law firm in 2013 called Ballard Spahr, which is a legit giant law firm that's out there. Of interest to this conversation is that her background, and this is described in several biographies that I've looked at online, including her own law firms. Like her own law firm describes her as handling litigation and arbitrations of all kind, including trade secret litigation, breach of contracts, employment litigation, including enforcement of non-competition and non-disclosure agreements, and asset purchase disputes. That's something, right? That's not constitutional law, and that is exactly what this case is about, but that's something, right? I mean, that's litigation. Here's another description from the University of Colorado School of Law that honored her in some way. It's got her on their big Colorado law, like a alumni page or something. It says she focused on representing businesses in litigation and appeals, including trade secret litigation, breach of contract litigation, and more. In her spare time, she volunteers as a trustee for the Colorado Legal Aid Foundation and works with the Center for Legal Inclusiveness on their diversity initiatives. The only thing I would pull out of that is maybe not a deep background in constitutional law, but almost anybody that gets appointed to the bench doesn't have a super deep background in con law. That's kind of a niche area. So that doesn't concern me much. What concerns me from an optic standpoint is what I'm about to tell you about the timing of certain things that took place. And it resulted in Scott Gessler, who's our former Secretary of State, the Honey Beaver, or whatever his nickname was, Honey Badger. It was either Beaver or Badger. I don't know. Maybe he was a beaver that badgers. I don't know. Nonetheless, Scott Gessler, who was our former Secretary of State, so knows the gig, knows the game. This is a guy who represents Trump and whoever else is named in this thing, probably Trump for purposes of this litigation. He began yesterday by asking for Judge Wallace to recuse herself from the case. And here's why. Well, actually, let me back up. Let me read you this Colorado Code of Judicial Conduct. These are kind of the ethical rules that govern judges, and they are in the form of canons. And I'm looking at them right now, right from the courts.state.co.us website. I'm not just making this up. Canon number 2, a judge should avoid impropriety and, this is the one that's going to be appropriate here, the appearance of impropriety in all the judge's activities. Now it starts off with, there's 3 letters, A, B, and C. It says A, a judge should respect and comply with the law. That makes total sense. And should conduct herself at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. That is conduct while they're a judge. And that's important here because the conduct that caused Scott Gessler to ask her to recuse did not take place while she was a judge, but I don't think that's the end of the analysis. Here's B. A judge should not allow family, social, or other relationships to influence the judge's judicial conduct or judgment. A judge should not lend the prestige of her office to advance the private interests of others, nor should a judge convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence her. A judge should not testify voluntarily as a character witness. Some of that applies here. I'll get to it. Here's C. A judge shall not hold membership in any organization that the judge knows practices invidious discrimination on the basis of race, gender, religion, or national origin. That's not this. We're really talking about A and B here that promotes public confidence. So here's how this thing plays out. In August of 2022, that's just last year, August the 18th, Governor Jared Polis appointed Sarah B. Wallace to the 2nd Judicial District. That's Denver. Denver's the 2nd. 1st is Jeffco. 18th is the best. That's Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln for the moment. Appointed her to the bench. So on August the 18th of 2022, she is not a judge, but she knows she is going to be a judge. In October of that year. So about 2 months, and I can't remember if it's exactly 2 months. It was less than 2 months. Less than 2 months later, on October the 15th, 2022, just about a year ago, she scratches out a check or does some online contribution to an organization called the Colorado Turnout Project. If you go look at coloradoturnout.org, I'm reading to you what's on their website this very moment. They have 4 paragraphs that describe what they call our story. This is the first paragraph. The Colorado Turnout Project is a coalition of Colorado students, activists, veterans, and Coloradans from all walks of life who are fed up with the complicity of Colorado's Republican representatives in our nation's venomous political atmosphere. We formed shortly after Colorado Republicans refused to condemn the political extremists who stormed the United States Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. In fact, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert, Colorado 3, even encouraged the violence. The third paragraph. The Colorado Turnout Project aims to prevent violent insurrectionists by addressing this problem at its source. If we vote out pariahs like Representative Boebert, we can turn Colorado blue once and for all. By the way, it is for the moment. I don't know about for all, but it is now. That's what they say their story is on this particular thing. The judge on October the 15th contributed $100 to that organization. Now, $100 for a partner in a giant law firm like Ballard Spahr, $100 is probably like you and I flipping a nickel to someone on the side of the road. You would barely notice it. However, she has also contributed to individual candidates, including Jenna Griswold. Jenna Griswold is a party to this lawsuit. Yeah, that's this judge. Now, if you're full on, there's a conspiracy afoot here, there was some way to get this, I don't believe any of that stuff. I don't believe there's a conspiracy, and I don't believe these facts mean that the judge can't be fair, can't be competent, can't come to the right answer under the Constitution. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I tell you those things, and if you're looking for a reason to indict the judicial branch and whatever decision comes from it, especially if it's negative against Trump, in fact, only if it's negative against Trump, you're going to look to these two things, and you're going to say, wait a minute, a judge gave money to an organization, even if it's $100, a judge gave money to an organization who exists purely to address the very thing that she has to rule upon as whether or not it's an insurrectionist act that Donald Trump was part of that would prohibit him from being on the ballot. And, oh, by the way, she's given money to someone who's a party in the suit. Dang. Now, she was not a judge, so those canons don't apply in that same way. However, she knew she was going to be a judge when she gave the money to the Colorado Turnout Project. Now, she goes on to make statements yesterday after Scott Gessler makes his, and he says, reluctantly, I make this motion, this request for a recusal. And so Judge Wallace denies that motion to recuse and then makes some quotes that appear in this Colorado Politics, did a really good job here, Colorado Politics article. I'm going to read them to you. I do not dispute that on October the 15th, 2022, prior to taking the bench, I apparently made a $100 contribution to the Colorado Turnout Project. That being said, prior to yesterday, I was not cognizant of this organization or its mission, she said. It has always been my practice, whether I was entirely successful or not, to make contributions to individuals, not PACs, political action committees. I can assure all of the litigants that prior to the start of this litigation and to this day, I have formed no opinion whether the events of January the 6th constituted an insurrection. Wallace continued or whether Trump engaged in an insurrection, or for that matter, any of the issues that need to be decided in this hearing. That's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that incredibly interesting and concerning? And here's the problem. And somebody texted in yesterday and they're like, whoa. Here, this is the texter. George, take a breath. She should recuse on appearance. Can a superior judge yank her off? No, I don't think so. I don't know that judges don't have the authority to make other judges get off of cases. And all they can do, the chief judge of any jurisdiction can only assign judges to courtrooms, and I think assign certain cases to them. But I don't think they can just decide, hey, now you don't get to do this work. Maybe they could reassign her. It wouldn't be mid-case like this. And this George, take a breath. It's not a take a breath thing, man. This is serious. It's serious not because it calls into question, in my opinion, the competence of the decision or the judge or the impartiality in that way. It's the appearance of it, man. It's the appearance of it. That's the problem. Is you have a guy who is on trial, basically, and this will be a case that will be used in every other state out there that wants to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. You have a guy who has gone out of his way and made the last however many years since he lost the election, I mean, since the election was stolen from him, arguing that the election was stolen from him. And arguing that the system is corrupt and it's against him. And look at these corrupt prosecutors and the corrupt judges. And he's had gag orders put on him for the things that he said. And now we've created a situation where a judge who has this particular thing in her background, two things. She's contributed to a political candidate who is a party to this case. And during a time when she knew she was going to be a judge, while she was engaged to the judiciary, if you will, not married yet, but engaged, she went ahead and gave money. And here's the other thing. I want to take her at her word. Apparently, I made $100 contribution. And I'm asking you, have you ever been shocked when someone has come back and said to you, do you know you gave $100 to the something orders? I know where I've given money. I feel like I do. I may not know every time I've signed a petition, but when I give money to a candidate, I tend to remember that I gave money to a candidate or to an organization, especially if it takes place less than 2 months after having been appointed to the judiciary, when you know that as a judge, you don't give contributions. You don't engage in anything partisan. You don't engage in that kind of issue advocacy when it's political like that. And this is an organization that's highly political. It is geared towards removing Republican Lauren Boebert and other Republicans. It's a problem. Now, one of the reasons that we jumped in so freaking late at the 6 o'clock hour was Billy and I had been going back and forth on this, in part about whether $100 matters, whether this is even a thing. And I don't want to speak for Billy, but the two, and Billy can put the ears on, the two things that I took away from our conversation is, one, you were like, $100, that's not enough to really influence anybody's decision. And the other thing I heard you say, and correct me, and Billy's going to talk in a second here. The other thing I heard you say was, it kind of doesn't matter because the people that are full on Trumpers, they were going to question a negative outcome no matter what. Like, this does not move the needle.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling on this one. And I am shocked that the judge allowed this to happen and put herself in this situation. I do find it unethical. I personally do not think, while I understand that judges can, I don't think they should be contributing in this manner. There are certain things. I honestly don't think that radio station hosts should be contributing to political campaigns at all. I've never contributed to any political campaign or that type of a
I
movement.
did.
I know you did, but that's before this.
No, I gave one. I gave some money recently to George Teal.
All right,
who's a friend.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's just a.
Should I not do that?
Again, you can do what you want. I'm just talking about me personally, because I'm not going to tell you, because I don't think we should make a rule, but I have a problem with a judge, doesn't matter party or anything else. It doesn't matter what group, but I have a problem with that. I just think that when you are saying that I support this organization, you can support certain charities and other stuff.
Sure.
But the political organizations I don't like. And this does give them an excuse. However, it's $100. For me, that didn't impact anything the group is doing. I mean, they may have been able to get the larger veggie tray at one of their parties. That's about it. So there's not
and
that
it would
much.
definitely be veggie.
Yes, it definitely would be. It would be, and have a lot of tofu and hummus.
Yeah.
But
and non-dairy
yes,
cheese.
Yes, and that
almond cheese.
Yes,
if such a thing exists.
Yeah, it's like, and the other part though that you're talking about is, I do believe that this is already baked in. The idea that the fix is in, that everybody's coming after Trump, that's already baked in. So what this will do is this will allow confirmation bias. This will allow someone that already says and has decided in their mind that this entire process is dirty and they're only coming after Trump because he's the one that is going to be able to down the Biden and everything else, despite what we've seen in certain numbers and certain polling, that Trump may not be the strongest person to go against Biden, but they've convinced themselves. And so now this just rolls into the, Biden's horrible Justice Department that is coming after Trump and persecuting their political enemies. This is just confirmation bias, and that's a problem.
I mean, if you were a judge and you had, before you became a judge, I'll just use me as an example, and you had given money to me in my run for district attorney, and then you become a defendant in a case where I've made certain accusations on behalf of the people, do you want a judge sitting in judgment of your case where they've given money to me to be the prosecutor? No. I mean, I think rightfully, if I were at the other table, I'd be like, hey, is there nobody else that could do this? Nobody that gave this guy money?
Oh, yeah. Again, it is the appearance of impropriety, and it does appear, and in my mind, it is even unethical. It does branch into that being unethical. The fact that you've given money to this group that has this,
For Frank from Evergreen,
Frank, what's up?
I look forward to welcoming you to the MAGA Trump train to help drain the swamp. Well, this isn't even swamp stuff. This is just
and well, here's the thing though, is that this, to me, as I've told you, this is confirmation bias. This does not prove that this judge is on the take.
No, and I don't believe that.
No,
I don't believe it at all.
I don't either. But Frank from Evergreen, he's welcoming on a Trump train. So,
I know.
But it's that confirmation bias where he's already at that point that, of course, because this involves Donald J. Trump, it's obviously political persecution. Only because it involves him, not anything else surrounding him or anything else. It's obviously political persecution.
I think too. And here's another thing I should tell you about. There's also rules that Colorado Judicial Code of Conduct 2.11, disqualification, which is what Gessler asked for here. Listen to this very first words of this. A judge shall disqualify herself in any proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned, including but not limited to the following circumstances. And then it goes through this. And I think what Judge Wallace has said is, well, I'm not partial. I'm not biased. And it's like, that's not the standard. The standard is, was it reasonable for Scott Gessler to question whether she was biased or she might be partial? And if the answer is yes, that's a reasonable thing to bring up, given her conduct after she was appointed to the bench. Game, set, match. Got to be over. It's a problem because in no way am I suggesting that she is biased or is partial or is going to make the wrong decision or isn't. I'm not saying any of those things. But for this particular case, this historic case, where nobody has never used this part of the Constitution to keep a presidential candidate off the ballot, with this particular defendant, the bar in many ways has to at least achieve what's in writing, if not more than that. So the question, and we've got callers already calling in. Ken's calling in. Lines are open at 303-696-1971. Does this cause you to question in advance of any decision, that decision, especially if it goes against Trump? What should happen here? Or is this much ado about nothing? Is this like, George, this is more political garbage? There are judges that have done that. Tell me what you think. I'm telling you what I think. I think it's a huge optical mistake. This is not something you make a record and get over. You give this to another person. I think in part, the other thing that people will say in light of this is, well, she kept it because of the bias. She kept it because she can't read this and see that it is the reasonable questioning of impartiality. And maybe it's because it's the biggest case of the day and it has historic implications and everybody Everybody knows whatever decision she makes is going to be appealed, and it could ultimately be appealed to the United States Supreme Court. And man, that's got to be attractive. And I'm not saying that's why she's doing it. I'm saying now you get to make arguments like that, because in the face of these pretty clear words, no action. 303-696-1971 is our number. We're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to get to Ken, others who are calling in, lots of texts coming in. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. It's obligatory because it's Halloween 2023. I think we're going to have to hear more and more music like that throughout the morning as Billy hijacks the bumper music with what I think he would play for Halloween trivia. I don't know what else. If you've got the scary music too from like Friday the 13th or Halloween, that's Friday the 13th.
Oh, I have
Halloween is. Huh? You have what?
Well over a dozen.
Oh my goodness. We've got well over a dozen. Listen, we've got so many texts, full phone lines. I promise we're going to get to them. I'll let you know when a line pops open and you call in and share your thoughts on this. 303-696-1971. Here's one. Wait, is this like some bad relationship where we say we should break up and she gets to say no? We're not breaking up, and so we're stuck in this relationship? Kim, I said no, but funny. I get the point, though. And that is that the other side has basically said, hey, not I want to break up, but I think you should in your authority. It's not a perfect thing, but you're right. She gets to keep the relationship going. Here's another text. I would say it is wrong that she will be the judge in this case. Why would she give money to an organization without knowing what they stand for? That to me is bonkers too. Now, maybe it's just that when you're a partner at Ballard Spar and you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, she seems like she was great at what she did. Maybe $100 towards an organization called the Colorado Turnout Project sounds pretty innocuous. Like, oh, you're trying to increase turnout? Yeah, sure, I'll support that. Maybe a friend asked her. I don't know, but I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter because now we're trying to guess at what her motivations would be. Those guesses are either unreasonable or reasonable. And if they're reasonable guesses and there's reasonable skepticism about her involvement in that, especially during a time where she knew she was about to put on the robe, that's enough under the rule to disqualify. It's not, are you partial and biased? It's, could somebody reasonably question your impartiality and bias? And in this case, I think the answer is yes. I just don't know what else to do with it. I'm looking at her contributions to candidates right here. She gave over the course of 4 years, she gave, good Lord, over $1,000 to Phil Weiser. Who do you think represents Jenna Griswold in court? The Attorney General. That'd be Phil Weiser. And who's the party to the case? Jenna Griswold, who she also gave $250 to back in September of 2021. Why do we do this to ourselves? If you are someone who values the credibility of the decisions made by judges, and God knows I do, and you want the institutions to be honored and respected in a case of this sensitivity with this many eyeballs on it, this to me feels like an unforced error. Didn't have to happen. Did not need to happen. There are no other judges in Denver who could take up this case. I don't know. And someone's going to say, George, are you saying that people who are going to be judges can't contribute to candidates for office? I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying they shouldn't for this reason, especially if it's an office where you may sit on a case that they're a party or the attorneys to. It's kind of a big deal. Here's another thing. George, why would a judge contribute to an organization if she didn't believe in the philosophy of that organization? The amount of the donation is immaterial. I feel like that last part's true, Gino. The amount of the donation is immaterial. I get Billy's point too, which is, look, if it's like a nickel for her, you give a nickel, you flip a nickel into a pot of, in front of King Soopers, doesn't mean that you're fully invested in the. I get that part. It's the timing of it that I don't understand. And I could foresee a friend or someone catching her at some social event and being like, hey, we're trying to increase voter turnout. Would you contribute to the Colorado Turnout Organization or whatever project? And she'd be, oh, sure, that sounds good. My guess is she's never been to the website. Reckless, foolish, maybe, but I don't know that she knows it. That's not the issue. The issue is, can someone reasonably question her impartiality based on it? How can you say no? Ken, you're on 710 KNUS. Ken, what do you think?
Well, I think you're straining at gnats and ignoring the camels.
Tell me about it. What does that mean?
Well, it's a biblical reference, which I figured someone at KNUS would kind of know.
No, but I mean, tell me
Uh,
what you mean regarding
all right,
this
what I'm
particular
saying
case.
is, what I'm saying
If
is that
these
you're
are the gnats,
overlooking.
what's the
All right,
camel?
now stop. Let me stop. All right, first off, do you remember Clarence Thomas? How many bribes has that man taken?
Bribes?
And his wife Ginny.
Hold on, bribes?
And his wife Ginny. Yes. And his
What
wife
bribes
Ginny
has
was
he
making
taken?
bank.
What bribes has he taken? It's
I
a big
actually filed
accusation. Has anyone accused him of taking a bribe?
Yeah, I am.
Who?
And I'll be happy. Hey, George, I'll be happy to send you information on this because I filed a lawsuit on this 10 years ago. Now, Ginny Thomas was making bank trying to get people into the Bush administration while he was sitting on Bush v. Gore. And I can't think of a more consequential case than Bush v. Gore. And then let's look at Eileen
Hold on.
Cadden
Let's take
spreading
that
her
one.
legs.
Let's take that one at its face. When Justice Ginny Thomas is involved, I get it. But are you telling me that every judge in the robe is on the hook for what their spouse does?
Yes, that's called a conflict of interest.
That is absolutely not a conflict of interest.
Have you ever read the federal statutes on this? Your conflicts of interest involve your wife.
So if my
yes,
spouse,
they do. So Ginny Thomas is on the hook. Ginny Thomas is on the hook.
So
but you
everything.
overlook
Go ahead.
all
Keep
the stuff
talking
that
over me,
man
buddy.
does.
That's good radio.
Well, that's because you're talking over me.
Buddy, it's my show. Read the room.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get back to the very first question. How do you define a bribe?
I say you pay a gratuity to get me preferential treatment in my courtroom. That's a bribe.
Where is the proof that that took place?
I can send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me because you're the only person on the planet Earth who has said it is a bribe.
No, I have not. I'm not. And all of these trips from Harlan Crow, what are these?
Those are bribes.
Yes, those are bribes, baby.
Because they sat down and said, I'll do this for you and you do this for me.
That's essentially what happened.
Not essentially. When you say it's a bribe, we can't wink, wink, nudge, nudge our way through it. You got to tell me what your proof is. And the fact that he has a super rich friend who provided him with these trips, which should have been disclosed to you and me. That part I agree with. That is not evidence that it is a bribe.
And it's also criminal. It's also criminal violation of Section 1001. So let's talk about that.
Who says that?
Take a look read the statute.
Which member of the Department of Justice of a party that Clarence Thomas has never been a part of says that?
Like I said, read the statute.
No,
tell
me. I could read the statute, but I'm not the DOJ.
Why are we overlooking this? Oh yeah, well, if we don't prosecute Donald Trump's tax crimes, they didn't happen, right?
What?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Donald Trump's tax crimes. He filed fraudulent tax returns.
What does that have to do with this topic, man?
It has everything to do with this. It's called corruption. Corruption. You're saying.
So the call is now just in general corruption. I'm not talking about corruption. I'm talking about the appearance of impropriety in this specific case. I think it's fair to talk about Clarence Thomas. I think the reason that he didn't disclose is a problem. I think the fact that he didn't disclose is a bigger problem because then you and I can't scrutinize who's giving him these trips and monies and all this other stuff. I think that's important. But you can't get from that to it is a criminal act. You just can't do that, man. All of a sudden, you're the other side you despise. Everything's a conspiracy. Everything's a crime.
I can get there, sir. But I remember Ed Nottingham. And what about Eileen Cannon spreading her legs as for the Donald down there in Florida? I'm sorry.
What are you talking about, man? Think about how how misogynistic that term is. That's misogyny, buddy. What would you say if it was a male judge?
He's just a gigolo, and everybody we know he's a gigolo.
Give me a break, man. So a judge that was appointed by Trump, who makes decisions that have been appealed, overruled, questioned, all of those things, she spreads her legs for Donald Trump. That's your comment?
That's my comment. She does a solid for him. She's applying for the Supreme Court.
Is she? Do you have proof of that?
I think I've got sound evidence of it.
Buddy, do you have a single shred of evidence that she's applying to be on the Supreme Court or ever has? Ever? Do you have that?
I think it's clear from what she's done.
No, I'm not. No, buddy. There is no. It is clear. You either have evidence, dude.
We are talking appearance of impropriety. I'm saying if you want to talk appearance of impropriety,
no,
watch.
man, you've gone way beyond appearance of impropriety.
Keep your eyes open, baby. Keep your eyes open.
Ken, you've claimed.
I'll talk to you later. I'll send you.
Yeah, Ken, I wasn't going to let you punch out on your own, man. That is ridiculous. One, you claimed a crime. You didn't claim appearance of impropriety. You outright claimed a bribe that nobody, the DOJ hasn't accused Clarence Thomas of. Then you accused this woman, judge down in Florida, of spreading her legs for Donald Trump. You are disgusting, sir. You are disgusting and a misogynist to make that suggestion. If Donald Trump had said that about a judge, you would pull your hair out and claim that he was a misogynist, and you'd be right. Outrageous. And then to say she's doing it because she's applying to be on the Supreme Court. And when I ask what proof you have, your answer is, well, it's pretty clear. I hope to God you're not an attorney, man, because your concept of evidence and proof sucks. People that text into this show and call in have a better concept of it than you do. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. We're going to get to Joan. Ken's line is open. If you're a misogynist, don't call in. If you want to have a conversation about this, and even Clarence Thomas, and I think that's a fair conversation to have, give us a call, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Oh, it's the Stones, and it's Halloween. If you figure out the name of the song, you get why Billy's pumped it in right here for the bumper music. Listen, I don't have enough time to take Joan or Mary and anyone else calling in at 303-696-1971 until the next hour. I promise I'll put you on. You know that I just honor the callers and the texts as well. I'll just say this. Off air, Billy made the brilliant observation that Ken is the liberal version of Joe from Arvada. He is the liberal, and I imagine everybody out there listening is like, oh my God, you're right. He talks about, the only thing he doesn't say is George. That's the only thing that keeps Ken from being the liberal version of Joe 100%. Quite an observation. What a hell of a call, man. And I'm happy to talk about Clarence Thomas, but dang. Stick around. We'll come back. We'll get to you, me, George Brauchler, 710, KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here halfway through the Halloween show on 2023. Our number 303-696-1971. One line is open. Let me just quickly reset the topic. There is a trial underway this week in a Denver district courtroom. That's state, not federal. Denver district courtroom. It's being heard in front of a Judge Sarah Wallace, who I have every reason to believe is competent on the law, probably an expert in the fields that she's been doing for over 2 decades. I believe she's a good person. I think that she will act impartially and according to the law and not any built-in bias. I also think none of that is relevant to the issue of whether or not she should have recused yesterday when asked by former Secretary of State and now attorney for the plaintiffs in this case. Actually, the defense. Is it defense or the plaintiffs? I got to look at it. Either way, for Donald Trump, Scott Gessler. He asked that she recuse. There was a big reason why. He didn't state the one about Jenna Griswold. I find that to be problematic. But in 2 months after being appointed to the bench, but before she was sworn in, and that's important because this wasn't conduct when she was a judge. It was like she was a judge in waiting. She gave $100, and I say a mere $100 because I presume a partner at Ballard Spahr, which was the giant successful law firm she was a partner in, that they make way more money than you and I, probably way more money than you and I combined with half the listeners on the show. I mean, just a ton of money. So $100, not that much. However, gave the money to an organization who stands for the proposition that January 6th was an insurrection, that I read to you their entire webpage. I'll just read you this one portion of it. The Colorado Turnout Project aims to prevent violent insurrections by addressing this problem at its source. They've already called it an insurrection, and she gave them money and then said yesterday when asked to recuse, I'm not going to do it. I'm not biased. I haven't formed an opinion. And apparently I gave the money, making it sound like she doesn't recall it, didn't know their purpose, didn't know their mission. None of which is relevant. The only thing relevant is this Rule 2.11, 2.11 of the Colorado Code of Judicial Conduct, subsection A. Very first words. A judge shall disqualify herself in any proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Well, there you go. Not only, though, had she given money to that organization, she was a contributor to Jenna Griswold's campaign. She's a party to the lawsuit. And she'd given over $1,000 to Phil Weiser's campaigns for Attorney General. He's the guy representing Jenna Griswold. So she has some skin in the political game that got these people to these positions. Again, I'm not telling you it makes her impartial. I don't believe she is. I'm telling you it's irrelevant. It's whether or not she could reasonably be questioned, that impartiality. And unless you think that bringing these things up is unreasonable, and I don't, this is an unforced error. This is a mistake. Unless she rules for Donald Trump, I don't know. But this is exactly the kind of fuel that the Trump folks need to say, see, system is rigged. They gave this case to a judge who already had it in for me. That's where we're at. That's not fair to you and me. That's not fair to any of the litigants, including Donald Trump. And it's not fair to the system. It's not fair to the law. That's where we're at. What should happen here? What do you think about this? Is this much ado about nothing? Now, we'll get to the Ken call, but I know Joan's been hanging on, and I want to honor her for this call. We had Joan on yesterday, which would normally mean, hey, we wouldn't have Joan on for another week or so, but Joan was an actual witness to this. She took time out of her day to watch the proceedings in court. And so first, Joan, thanks for joining us. But two, tell folks where they can go to watch the proceedings today.
I'm not sure about that. I watched it on americasvoice.news.
Americasvoice.news?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can anybody go there and click on a link and watch it as far as you know?
Well, I'm not sure that they are going to do the entire trial.
Oh.
And I know, so here's the thing. I was listening to you, and I'm thinking maybe I should recuse myself from this phone call. Because
what does that even mean?
I have a bias that is very pro Scott Gessler.
Okay.
I actually, as a bonus member, voted for him when he was running for leadership in the state GOP. And I've also watched him do some really wonderful litigation for the Green Mountain Water Board as well. So, and I knew his mother, who was a great Republican in death. She was wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here going, am I biased? Are you going to think that I'm just here to say kudos to Scott Gessler? He's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but the answer is yes, Joan, but that's okay. That's okay. You get to have an opinion. Me too, because we don't get to sit in a position that allows us to make decisions that impact Scott.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel better about that. But I was sitting here going, everybody has biases.
Yep.
And at what point, and I can tell you this, my husband was not allowed to do any political contributions when he was working for the federal government.
That's right.
And so we had to be very, very careful. And I was the one who had to sign all the checks, which kind of brought me to an interesting observation about this. This judge still uses checks. That's incredible.
Well, and again, I think it's a contribution, whether it took the form of a check or electronic or, I don't know, but that's less relevant to me.
Electronic, and she'd have less thing to say, I didn't know what I was donating to. And George, the part that's just stunning to me, I mean, stunning, is I know the political atmosphere and stuff like this. I do not know any Republican groups that put this kind of stuff out and then expect people to donate. It's verging on a hate group.
Whether it's a hate group or not, what seems reckless to me, and it seems reckless, is that after they've sought and successfully received an appointment as a judge, that in the 2 months after that, when they know they have to get their affairs in order and they have to figure out a way to get clients covered and, deconflict out a bunch of things, that they would then give any money to any organization ever without first knowing what that organization stands for. That just sounds reckless.
So here's the question I have for the former DA.
Uh-oh.
Is this grounds for an appeal? If she's come out and said, no, I'm not going to recuse myself. I sincerely believe that even though I donated to this Democratic hate group without knowing it was a Democratic hate group, that I'm still unbiased and can do this?
I don't think so. And again, I'm not the appellate genius from the office, and I've never run into a situation quite like this. I don't think so. What I think is instead, it's an ethical question. And of course, any appellate court is going to scrutinize that decision, but they're also going to scrutinize all of the other legal rulings and findings that the judge made and the application of those findings to the law. And I could clearly see them saying, yep, she did everything she was supposed to do within the parameters of the law and all this other stuff, and it'd still be an ethical violation. I could see that. But I don't know enough to tell you whether this kind of a thing would cause a case to be overturned or not. It could. I've never come across anything quite like this. I just think it's a huge unforced error.
Have you had judges recuse on something you asked?
I've had judges recuse for things that I don't think they should have recused for. I thought they were super weak and tangentially related to any part of the case at all, but they do. And it's like, okay. I mean, what can you say? You can't appeal a judge's recusal, right? Like you can't go to another judge and say, force them to be on it. It's the other way. There's a liberal reading of these rules by the judges because we want them to make decisions like I need to get off this case because I think my judgment could be called into question by the public. This is one where I don't know, man. I don't know if it's because there's a time is of the essence approach to this. I don't know if it's because this is the biggest case in America, potentially, because it's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, whichever direction she ends up going. And I don't want to give that up to somebody. I don't know. And again, I really believe she's impartial, and I believe she believes she's impartial. I don't think any of that's relevant.
So clue me in on how she got this. Did they
It's
draw straws?
no, don't know the answer.
Turn?
Usually what happens, and I'm talking about on the criminal side, I presume it's the same on the civil side. Generally what happens is there's some sort of you catch cases during a certain period of time, or sometimes it's depending upon the size of the jurisdiction, you take cases that have last names A through F, the next person takes G through L, stuff like that, or it's on a rotational basis. And every case that comes in gets assigned out on a kind of predetermined model. And it's just the next case goes to the next person. And this one just happened to come in. As far as I know, it's random, but I don't know. No one has said.
Interesting. The whole thing is very interesting, and it kind of actually bleeds into the DOJ and how some of us feel about the DOJ, and then it kind of bleeds into how I think if I was this judge, I'd recuse myself completely and totally as fast as I could.
I would too. And not because it's an admission that yes, I have a bias, but because it's an admission that this case, these issues are so unprecedented, so significant in terms of this next election cycle, not for dog catcher, not for county commissioner, but for president of the United States, that I simply can't allow that decision, whatever it is, to be tainted with this. Do you know what I mean? That's the reason I'd recuse. But again, this judge is way smarter than I am. I'm far more successful. I'm just this dope who found his way onto the radio.
I personally think she should dismiss it, because the real interesting aspect of it is what you listen to what Scott was saying yesterday. And what Scott said yesterday, I found very compelling and actually almost brilliant. And
did you listen to the other side before you tell us that? Did you listen to the other side too, Joan?
I listened a little bit, but I actually didn't. I didn't get the notice that he was on it until he was in the middle. You
texted me at some point, and during the show,
because friends of mine texted me and said, "Did you know Scott was doing this?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea he was doing this." And we were all like astonished, because he didn't come out and say, "Hey, everybody, look what I'm doing," which I thought was. I think he's a very good litigator who does things really well with the government, and he was a good SOS, and I just think he has some of his mother's ethics too. So yeah, it came as a surprise to me, but I can say that one of the things he laid out was how he's going to call a whole bunch of witnesses about the January 6th report, because they're using the January 6th congressional report to say that there was this insurrection. And I think if I was like Democrats, Biden, or anybody, I wouldn't want that retried in civil court.
Yeah, let's see how much traction that gets. I haven't read the pleading, so I don't know how much they're relying on it. But as we sit here talking about this, Joan, I'm going to go a step farther. I think if you're the AG's office and you're representing Jenna Griswold, you want to join in that motion for the judge to recuse, because you want whatever decision that's going to be made to be free of that political taint. And now you've handed it to the Trump folks on a silver platter. Let me ask you this, Joan. What is your opinion that if she rules in Trump's favor and doesn't keep him off the ballot, that's evidence that she's impartial?
Please don't ask me about the judicial system and how I feel.
No, why not? Joan, that's totally fair. You called in about it.
Because the DOJ, I sincerely believe, is corrupt as all get out.
I know, but this isn't federal, and it's not DOJ. DOJ is not the judicial system.
Oh, it's all connected, and it's like telling me that Polis is not a Democrat, please.
What?
I'm just telling you.
So, Joan, if this judge were to rule in Trump's favor and against those seeking to keep him off the ballot, what then? What is your impression of the judge? Did she make the right decision? And does that mean she's impartial?
Like I told you, I think if I was this judge, I'd be dismissing this as quick as because there is no grounds for it.
Well, I don't know about the dismissal part. I'm interested to hear what evidence and facts they have. I don't know. I haven't followed the pleadings. But the bigger question is, does the outcome dictate the impartiality?
I would believe she was biased, and I would believe that that she had found some compelling evidence, because it's kind of like, I don't know, the compelling evidence that I'm seeing brought out about some of the stuff with Hunter and President Biden.
But you get me to the next part of the question, which is, if she finds against Trump being on the ballot, could that also be because she found some compelling evidence?
Maybe, but I honestly and sincerely believe optics is important.
Oh my gosh, of course.
And this is where she has the real problem, is that whatever she does decide, it will taint her personally for the rest of her judges. And
that's interesting.
That's another reason that I personally would recuse. I personally would dismiss. I personally would say, you people are just out of control. And you people have the Donald Trump syndrome bad.
Yeah. Well, I think the point that you've made here, Joan, that's the important one, is for a person who's not a practitioner of the law, you're just an observer. Yes, you have a dog in this fight. I get it. But there is something about this that, independent of the decision, just doesn't look right. It looks questionable. And that, to me, is the great problem with her not recusing, is there's enough here. Like, I don't know, Joan. I mean, maybe if she had just contributed to Griswold and Weiser's campaigns, but the timing of that other one and the reason it exists, it's not like one of a million things that the Colorado Turnout Project exists for. It exists on its front page to address the insurrectionists and those who supported them. And it's like, you're now listening to a case about insurrection and someone who's accused of having participated. Like, how can you tell me that's not a problem for the public?
Yep. So anyway,
well,
thanks, George.
Joan, if you find out whether or not that thing is still live streamed somewhere, would you please shoot me the text? Because I do want to watch it. I just didn't get to yesterday.
Okay, I will go looking. It was very hard, George, because I was trying to listen to you and I was trying to listen
No,
to
I get it. I get it. You
like,
prioritize correctly. Me. Thank you, Joan. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Hey, listen, Joe and Frank, and now Joan's line is open at 303-696-1971. I want to get to you, but I'm hard up against this break here, and I don't want to make it a 10-second call with either of you. I'd like to have a bigger conversation than that. So let me begin by telling you, in my news feed today, I read yet another concerning article about the state of affairs for the housing market. And that is the idea that we have these persistently high mortgage rates in the 8%, that housing prices are still high, although they expect them to get soft because of that 8% thing. But because of the scarcity, we could be headed for some sort of a housing recession. Well, I don't know if any of these things are true, but I know who does. The person that can read the tea leaves the best is the person who's been doing it for so long at such a high level. That's Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. You might be freaking out about, is now the time to act? Are rates going to go higher? And I think they will. Is the market going to get super soft? Should I wait to sell or wait to buy or something in between? I've had people sell their homes and move in and rent a place waiting for the market to change. People just make these decisions. Why not rely on something other than the internet, which is what I'm doing? Call an expert. Call 833-301-SOLD. Call someone you can trust, because they've earned so many other people's trust, just like you. They've had, my guess is, whatever your situation is, they've seen it before a ton. They sell faster than others. They sell for more money than others. You can trust them. They know the market, not just here, but in the entire metro area. That interview we did with Gay Ribble a week or so ago, I thought was so telling, that she knows. She's like, she can tell you the town where it still makes sense to try to go up and buy a house if you can. She's fantastic. You can find out everything they do at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. or give them a call at 833-301-SOLD. When we come back, Joe, Frank, whoever else is calling, and I'll let you know as the lines come open. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, going right back to the phone lines. It's Joe. He's from a place called Arvada. Joe, how are you?
Good morning, George.
Well played.
Well, question. When have I ever been misogynistic? Come on.
Buddy, you are absolutely right to call in and call me out on that, because I was too broad with my Ken is the Joe from Arvada of the extreme left. I don't recall you having ever said anything as offensive and toxically misogynistic as what Ken said. That is true. You have my clarification and my apology.
Oh, I thank you for that. You went up in my world, George.
Well, I'm at the bottom, so I don't know what that rung looks like, but I'm happy to be there.
That's not true. I would say I am anti-communistic.
Same.
So, and yes, George, I do have a tendency to call out, okay, rhinoism. I didn't say you were. Come on now. I have never really called you out on that. We've had some debate on that. I believe you're conservative. There, I said it. Oh,
let's just end the call here. It can't get better than this. Everything after this is just going to be a downward slide.
I've been convinced.
Yeah.
Over time.
Yeah.
But it took a while.
I get it. But Joe, let me ask you this. And again, just to be clear, when I say that Ken is the Joe of the liberal side, it was the presentation piece, as Billy would describe it. It was not the content of it for certain, but it was the presentation. And you get what I'm talking about. Nonetheless, I'm glad you called, because I'm interested in hearing your perception of this issue and whether or not there's any way to address it or fix it moving forward without the judge recusing, even mid-trial. And I've never seen a judge do that, but I suppose the judge could today go, you know what, I've thought better of this thing. I should not be doing this.
1,000 reasons why she should recuse. But let me just first say that something that hasn't been said, she should examine her judgment, because she's not able to perceive that on face value, her bias is obvious to anyone, at least on the conservative side. Moderates also, how many donations is she making to Republicans?
None. I looked. She hasn't made a ton
Hmm.
of contributions, and I printed off her sheet. Those that she has, there's a school board candidate. There's a wingnut attorney, super lefty, crazy guy named Woodrow out of Denver. She threw him some money. And then most of it, honestly, the bulk of her giving has been to Phil Weiser. And then her last contribution temporarily, timing-wise, was to Jenna.
Did you say Phil Weiser and Jenna Ellis? Wow.
No, not Jenna Ellis. Not Jenna Ellis. Jenna Griswold.
Jenna Griswold. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh boy, she's
Big
in the
difference.
news too.
Yeah,
Wow.
big difference. Yeah.
Not that much. Anyway, just kidding. Anyway, the point is that now her judgment is really in question. Phil Weiser and Jenna Griswold.
It doesn't bother me that someone would give to them. What bothers me is, and what we don't know, and I don't know what the record shows, how many times she's applied to be a judge before making it to the place where she gets appointed by the governor. That matters to me, because I don't want judges or people who want to be judges giving money to political candidates who would likely appear in front of them. And when you're a Denver district court judge, the idea of the AG showing up, kind of a big deal. Now, if you're in Pueblo, the AG probably doesn't show up that much. That's one thing. But if you're in Denver, every single time somebody in state government gets sued, it has to be in Denver, because that's where state government lives. So you can expect that they're going to show up on a number of cases. So should you not be giving to the AG, Republican or Democrat? This isn't about Phil. Republican or Democrat, should you withhold your giving if you want to be a judge in Denver? Yes, absolutely. All day long.
But I mean, what about the lack of judgment that this could be perceived as a perception of?
That's it. You nailed it.
Oh,
You nailed it. It's the perception. It's not the reality. It's the perception.
But here's something. This has made my case for the fact that the judiciary is totally slanted left. Here, let me remind you of Emmett Sullivan, who basically climbed down off the judge's seat and got his prosecutor coat on and went after, remember, General Michael Flynn. He wasn't willing to accept the prosecution dumping the case. What he decided to do is become the prosecution.
That was certainly weird.
Won't surprise me if she gets down off the bench and starts prosecuting Donald Trump herself.
It would surprise me, Joe, because I don't see her that way and I don't presume her that way. But the fact that there are folks out there who now think that that's possible, that's the thing that calls into question. I'm going to read the language in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. So unless people think these facts, it's unreasonable to suspect that her impartiality might be impacted. Unless it's unreasonable, well, then she's got to recuse. And you know what? She didn't even need a motion from Scott Gessler. The way that it's self-executing in this way, a judge has an ethical obligation to do it, even if nobody else brings it up. So it's tough, man. It's tough.
They have to have some ethics, though.
Well, I don't think she's unethical. I'm not saying that. I'm not throwing rocks at her. What I'm saying is that this decision to not recuse, I think, is a mistake. I think it's short-sighted. I think it very well could run afoul of this specific provision of 2.11. But do I think she'll make the decision she thinks is right under the law? I do. But that's not relevant.
Well, see, that's where we part company here. We don't. I say we don't. Yes, okay. Firm, hard conservatives do not think she's capable of making a sound decision. And here's another thing. Think about this. The reverse situation must be employed for an unbiased, clear view. Imagine a judge who was a complete Trump, yes, supporter in the tank, drinking his bathwater, as you often say.
I do say that. You're
right. Deciding to go ahead and take a case prosecuting Joe Biden. And then,
hold on. We saw the exact thing you're describing, Joe. It's a good example. That's what Ken's referring to out of Florida. Ken made your point. Ken's saying
that's not true.
But I know it's not true. I'm saying that's what Ken was saying is exactly what you're suggesting, which is if there's...
No, that's not what was happening in that case. That case was a case bringing Donald Trump to the bench. I'm talking about a case bringing Joe Biden to the bench. In other words, see the case against Donald Trump down in Florida, that's one thing. Saying that, okay, she might side with the defendant because she is biased in his behalf. At least the judge has some sympathy towards the defendant and isn't a hanging judge. But in this case, see, we have the opposite, where the defendant is on the opposition. In other words, the prosecution should never be aligned with the judge in terms of their biases. See, I think that's important to note. Judges should not be aligned with the prosecution. They have to remain impartial.
No, I agree with you on that. I also, though, want to correct one thing, man. I don't want a judge to have sympathy for anybody that's at either of the tables. Their job is not to have sympathy. If at the time of sentencing, if there is such a thing, that becomes an issue, that's one thing. But I want them to rule on the law the way the law is, not the way sympathy helps lead them. You know,
I do too. I want a fair impartiality, but let's not forget that we're in a world where impartiality is almost impossible. I don't expect judges to have never given to either side of the aisle. I expect that they probably will. But here's the thing. I don't think these people should be put into political judges' seats. In other words, they shouldn't be judging political cases. They should be judging traffic or murder cases or theft or something, not the president of the United States. Remember, this is the number one possible candidate of the Republican Party. Why is this person being put up there?
Yeah,
Give me a break.
I don't want folks to have the demonstrable or perceptible bias, but I don't want to create an environment either, Joe, where simply because somebody is the high profile former and potentially future president of the United States, that somehow they escape scrutiny that you and I would be subjected to. This is a little different for me in that I guess we'll talk to Frank about this too. Maybe this case should have never been brought. Maybe it shouldn't have. I'm less concerned with that at the moment than I am the idea that given who this guy is, what the historic issue is, and I mean historic, like ain't nobody ever done this before to a presidential candidate that I'm aware of, that we maybe need to bend over backwards to interpret this reasonably be questioned about impartiality. Maybe we need to broaden that for purposes of this case, because you want America to look at the decision and go, okay, I may disagree with it, but I don't question the path that they took to get there. Right now, they will question the path unless it's a full-on, I rule against the Republicans and Democrats who are suing to keep the president off. Unless they rule in favor of Trump, everybody on this side of the fence is going to come out and say, well, we know why she ruled the way she ruled, and it's not the law. That's a huge problem. Joe, thank you, by the way, for the very reasoned and reasonable conversation. And you were right to call me out on that too broad of a comparison, because you have not said anything misogynistic, let alone as misogynistic as Ken did. Maybe we'll get Ken to call in on a regular basis, and he'll drop his women-hating comments throughout a political discourse that we have. Don't know. That remains to be seen. Joe's line is open. Fill it. 303-696-1971. We're going to get to Frank here in just a second. I want to tell you about an attorney named Dan Kaplan. And Dan, in fact, Dan texts me periodically from time to time on the show. I'd actually, again, this is one of those issues where I'd love to have Dan's analysis on this. He has appeared in front of judges maybe more than I have, not in terms of number, but I mean across the state. I've done some stuff in places other than where I've been the DA, but this guy's been everywhere. And I'd be interested to know, as a party to this on either side, how he would approach the judge. And the question I'd probably ask him is, would you have joined in that motion to recuse? Because you want the decision made. If you're going to win, you want that decision to be bulletproof from the perception standpoint. Interesting. If I could get Dan on the phone, I would actually have that conversation with him. Nonetheless, if you want a guy who's got the experience and the ethics and the I'm going to fight to the death for you when you've been hurt by someone else, whether it's a company or an individual, it doesn't matter the setting. It doesn't matter how it happened. If someone's negligence, recklessness, or potential intentional conduct hurts you, you want a fighter. Dan's that guy. He and Bobber have been doing this now forever. They fight for righteous clients on righteous cases. If you've got one, give them a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check them out at dankapluslaw.com. Kaplis, as always, C-A-P-L-I-S, dankapluslaw.com. When we come back, it's going to be Frank. I heard another phone ringing just as I was signing off on the Kaplis piece. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, final segment of the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to get to the phone lines real quickly here. A texter, I love you folks because you make me smarter and you happen to hold all the good information out there. Someone said, someone asked the question, and this is smart, is the date to certify the March 5th presidential primary list of candidates January 5th? I think that's right, but I don't know. We'll take another look. But that's an important question as we talk about the speed of moving this thing along and what delay might occur if they substitute a judge. Ken, I'm sorry. Good Lord. Ken on the brain. Frank, you're on 710 KUS. Frank, what do you think, man?
Hey, George, I forgive you. Hey, I think that this is kind of it's a weird example of, I think, compounding unforced errors because, first of all, this judge, I think she kind of blew it on Judgy 101 here because I think, look, when in doubt, recuse yourself out.
Amen.
I mean, and that's really the way it's supposed to work. And you brought up an incredibly good point, is that I bet you any number, any paycheck that this lady has applied for that judgeship multiple times and has waited in the wings for a long time while making these contributions. And that is just poor judgment on the part of a judge.
Well, so Frank, you're in the game. You know how it works. Most people, it happens, but most people don't hit a home run the first time they're up to bat.
Absolutely.
They might get on base, but they rarely score that first time. And I don't know about her, but statistics would say you're right. She's been up to bat before, you know?
Yep. I'm sure she's made finalists, interview-ish type things here and there and just not got it. But then she goes and turns around and gives $100 to this turnout project thing, which to me is, I don't, that's just poor judgment. That's really poor judgment, because if you're really applying for that job, you got to be out of any of that.
And not just applying for the job. She got the job. Do you know what I mean? Like she was an appointee. Job. She was like a judge in waiting. And I don't get it. Yeah. Frank, let me ask you this. Someone had called in, Joan asked this question. Is this grounds for something on appeal, or is it just an ethical thing?
No, 100%. This is an absolutely appealable thing. I don't think it's going to be successful on appeal because, like you pointed out, there's no indication that she can't really be neutral and be unbiased. It's just the fact that it happened. I mean, so I believe her when she says, no, I'm okay. I'm not biased in this. But so it's definitely an appeals ground. The other problem here, though, and this is where the compounding error goes, is that when I'm looking at this like an onion and I go out a layer, what is this group trying to prove here and try to keep Trump off the ballot? Trump isn't going to do doodly squat in Colorado on the ballot or off the ballot. And so it really doesn't matter. This is all just it's a pointless waste of judicial resources and time and effort to even have this be brought in front of any judge.
Billy and I were talking about this too. My best guess is, Frank, that this isn't really about Colorado at all. This is going to be that case that other states try to build upon and say, hey, look, we've got this issue. I also think it's a straight shot to the U.S. Supreme Court, depending upon how it goes. And maybe they can politicize this issue so much it impacts votes. I don't know that it ever keeps him off the ballot. Maybe it impacts votes. I don't know. I don't think it's about Colorado. I really don't.
Well, I understood they did this in Minnesota too, which is another like, well, what's this? A complete, exercise and
right.
But and I think you're right. But how are you gonna? If the point here, or the effort here, is to politicize Trump to a point that you poison him where nobody would vote for him or something, isn't it just the opposite that's going to happen? You're going to get all of if you make Trump a martyr and a lightning rod, all that happens is you inflame the cult side, as I've referred to them, even further. And so it just creates this, how are you ever going to depoliticize Trump?
You're not. I think the greatest weakness in this particular argument and this approach is anybody out there who's like, I don't want to vote for that. If you are looking for evidence that the fix is in, a judge who's given to this organization and contributed to two people on the other side of the courtroom from Trump deciding against Trump, that's it. Now you're like, see,
100%.
fixes in,
100%.
fixes in. And I
Yep.
just, it's just an unforced error. Have you ever seen, Frank, a judge recuse mid-trial, like after it began?
No. I've seen the judge recuse pre-trial, but not mid-trial. No.
No, I haven't seen that either.
You're already kind of bumping along here. It makes me wonder. I don't know. Did they know about this pre-trial? And I mean, you got to try to pull it out.
Well,
You
Scott says
pre-trial,
in the
period.
column in this article, Scott says, I just found out about this on October 27th, because what Frank's bringing up is a super smart point. And that is, if you're laying in the weeds on this information and you're trying to spring it on the judge on day one of the trial, shame on you for doing that. That creates a different kind of an issue. But Gessler says, I just found out about this on October 27th, which is just a couple days ago.
Yeah. And you know what's the other thing is, and I guess Gessler did this kind of like he said, hey, I'm reluctant to raise this, but I got to raise it kind of thing. And
he did.
And that's good. I mean, that's good, because what you're doing, I mean, even if you do it pre-trial, but mid-trial, you know, it makes it probably even worse.
Well, I just wondered,
you're poking the finger in the eye of the
not if
judge.
he would renew the argument, but if she would sit back and think, you know what, damn it, I should have made a different decision. I mean, there's no jeopardy that attaches. I mean, it might screw things up timing wise, but there's no jeopardy that attaches. It seems like, without being a civil guy, and you probably know more about that than I do, she could simply say, listen, folks, I made a mistake. I'm going to do the right thing now. I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to disqualify myself, and we're going to reset this case for something like that. I mean, would it be newsworthy? Sure. Would it be the right thing to do? Maybe.
Oh, I think that's happened before. I've never seen it, but I've heard of judges pulling the eject button, you know, even towards the end of trial.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a big one.
Look at things again and say, hey, man, you know, I might have messed this up.
Frank,
so,
thank you, man, as always, for the reasoned conversation and the good insight that you bring that I just don't have. There's another Frank on the line. We're going to get to him after the top of the hour. You guys stay put. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
eggplant? George Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the George Show, 710 KNUS. It's Halloween. That's why you get that sweet bumper music by Billy. Billy, on the podcast, will anybody be able to hear that? Well, it was Flying Purple People Eater. For those of you that were like, what are they talking about? That's what it was. Listen, last hour of the show, we've had callers pretty consistently throughout. The conversation has been about this judge and the Trump disqualification for the ballot case that launched yesterday in Denver, expected to go all week. The judge will issue a ruling that is likely to be appealed over and over and over again until somebody finally says enough is enough. But the judge in the case asked to be recused by Scott Gessler. He's an attorney for Trump, former Secretary of State. I think he goes by the honey weasel or the honey beaver or the honey badger. It's one of those three animals. But the honey part is the part I'm very confident about. He asked the judge to recuse and not based off of nothing. And he was reluctant to do it. But it turns out in the period of time between when she was appointed by the governor of the state of Colorado to be on the bench and taking the bench this past January, she gave money to an organization whose stated purpose in life, in part, is the Colorado Turnout Project aims to prevent violent insurrections by addressing this problem at its source, and then talks about voting out Republicans. And now she has a case before her where if she determines that there was an insurrection and determines that Trump was somehow part of it, she could keep him off the ballot for president. That's a big historic deal. She gave money to the organization. It's only $100. She'd also given money, not long before that, by the way. She'd also given money to both the Attorney General and Jenna Griswold, both of whom sit in the courtroom at the table across from Donald Trump. That's a problem. Perceptibly. And of course, there's a couple of them out there that talk about things like a judge shall disqualify herself in any case, in any proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Feels like we're there, but we've been getting your input on this thing. And I've got Frank on the line, a couple lines open, actually, 303-696-1971. First time in a couple hours. Question here, has the judge submitted her personal financial statement report as required by law? Jenna Griswold is one that tracks that information. And I remember a story where she forgot to notify the Attorney General about the 66 judges that didn't complete the report. I do remember that. We've talked about that here. That was great reporting by Dave Magoya from the Gazette, but she didn't forget to tell them. She deliberately didn't tell them, saying, well, they didn't ask for it. That was a little bit different. Here's someone, what dispensary does that guy go to? Hopefully that was a reference to Ken. You can't fix stupid. Go George. She was impartial. Now I believe she is showing that she is partial by not recusing. Interesting. I believe January 6th was an attempted insurrection and treasonous in nature. However, I fully agree with you on this, Judge. The case is far too consequential. That's it. And again, I want to reemphasize, I think she's smart. I think she's competent. I think she'll follow the law. I think she's ethical. I think she's going to make the right decisions in her mind based on what she believes the law to be. All that stuff is true. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if there's something out there that would cause her impartiality to reasonably be questioned. And I think that's where we're at. Another here. Sorry. Laura Loomer has the actual Gov link, and it was Denver room 209 or something like that. Oh, okay. That's right. You can probably go to State Judicial and get to Denver that way. These are punks that don't know how to act like the KNES on the left or why Colorado and other blue states are a mess. Tons more text, but I want to get to very patient Frank from Denver. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think?
This is SSF. That's sometimes sagacious, Frank.
We need to change your call in here when the number shows up so that we get that. What's going on, man?
I just listen and learn from you and Billy. I really appreciate the legal knowledge that you impart every day. And I think it's very valuable if people listen closely. And if there's one thing I've learned about the law and the things introduced into the law is that any point can be attacked or manipulated or flipped or changed 360 degrees and go from any angle. And that's a learning point.
I think that's true. Yeah.
I think that this lady, has now given an opening for what I would call the legal/judicial red flag law. And that would be a law that you would ask first the Democrats to introduce, that if there's any conflict of interest, they should be so gracious as to introduce a law countering that. and see how they respond. If they don't respond, then the Republicans could offer the same law and see if here in Colorado or any state they vote it down. I think the more you describe this lady, I think you should be known, as Peter says, by their limping or their action.
Oh, I remember him saying, yeah.
And, this lady, I mean, you could look at this position either way going forward, whether it goes to the Supreme Court or not, but not going forward. In medicine, if they biopsy something and it's a suspicious lesion, people keep their eye on it for the future because it's more likely to turn bad or cancerous. In this case, if you've got documentation that this lady has already donated times 2, at least, you wonder what else she's done in favor of the leftist position, then obviously she is left-leaning. And that can either be noted and voted on accordingly, or it can be used going forward if it goes up to the Supreme Court against her to say that, well, look, back here in Colorado, you had already declared your position. And, we feel that this is not a fair and just thing, and vote in favor of recusing herself. So
there's some wisdom in that, Frank, but I'll say this. I'm less concerned with, I guess I'm less concerned with her having given to this organization because she believes in its core value. Like, I will take her at her word that she's like, I don't remember giving, which is weird. You and I would remember giving $100 to some organization when our practice has been to give to individuals. But besides that point, I'll take her at her word for that. I'll take her at her word that she never went to their website, doesn't know what they stand for. Probably a friend or someone trusted said, hey, can you throw some bucks towards this great organization called Colorado Turnout Project? And just based off of the name, I could see her going, oh, yeah, I want to encourage turnout. Sure, I'll throw a check that way. But that's not important to the analysis. That's not relevant. When the standard is may reasonably be questioned, the truth of the bias is less important than what the perceived truth of the bias is. And that's the problem that she's created here.
Well, that's because you're gracious and kind and ever believing in the law. And I do want to believe in the law and the goodness of the law. But as you well know, having tried cases in front of judges, people go by that old 0 to 100 rule, 50 being absolutely neutral and 51 being right and 49 or less being left. And so no person can go without that bias. And I'm afraid that's the way they look the world through those colored glasses and make their decisions accordingly. And it'd be great if it was a perfect world and the justice was absolutely blind and making just those rules. But as you know, there's shades of gray in the law and innuendo and things that happen. So we're far enough down the road to socialism that we need all the help we can get. And a left-leaning judge, in my judgment, is not a good thing. Although barring Trump from being on the Colorado thing could absolutely be used as a thing, same thing as the Trump poster there of the Trump getting indicted, or the mugshot.
I think it could galvanize support for him. And again, there's very little that can happen with Trump that's going to change a lot of opinions because people have opinion. Like, I just don't know anybody in my life who's like, Donald Trump, take him or leave him. I don't know anybody like that. Everybody has their firm belief, but I do think it could provide motivation and galvanization. And I said this before, I'm not a huge Trump guy for a whole bunch of reasons we've talked about. But if the state of Colorado, through this judge, any judge, is going to try to intervene and say, you don't even get a chance to vote for or against him, now you've made me someone who's more motivated than ever to try, just because I don't want the government stepping in that capacity and disqualifying a guy based off of this. This is not due process. I mean, if he's been prosecuted for insurrection and convicted, touchdown. You got me. I get it. Keep him off the ballot. But this method, I don't think so.
If Polis is going to run for prez in the future, he doesn't want his fingerprints all over this, especially with a contribution to his AG.
Yeah, I don't. And again, I don't know that the governor really even has a role he could play here, unlike the criminal case that he could assign to Phil if he didn't like the way it was handled or something. I don't know that he has the ability to intervene in any way here. And I don't think the chief judge of the jurisdiction does too. I think this comes down to just Judge Wallace. and not her opinion about whether she can be unbiased or isn't. That's irrelevant. It's whether it's a reasonable question. And I think she's wrong when she says it's not. That's just what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Frank. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the kind words as always. Listen, Frank's line is open at 303-696-1971. Looking at some more of the texts here. Here's one. It's more problematic if she gave money to Steve Woodrow. He was my former state rep, and the dude is Looney Tunes. That speaks more to me, but not grounds to recuse. I agree, man. That dude is an utter wingnut. I don't know where or if he's ever practiced law, or he's one of those lawyers where it's like, I have the law degree and I'm admitted to the bar, but all I've ever done is whatever they're doing right now. Here's one. Libs live by the Rousseauian political ideology that if one is not disrupting the system, they are not of the left. Wallace is a Rousseauian leftist where political ideology trumps process. I just don't know that I'm not willing to get there, Texter. I'm not willing to get there. I do believe that she thinks she's unbiased and that she probably is unbiased. I just don't think it matters. That's not the end of the analysis. All she has to do is say, I get it. I'm not biased, but I think some could reasonably question that, and that's enough for me. This decision is too historic. It's too unique. It's too potentially precedent-setting. It's too important. We can't have it tainted with this being part of the narrative. I'm going to recuse. That'd be the right decision for the future. But we're just not. And again, people can disagree. I also, folks, you should know too, it is not without some trepidation that I continue to have these conversations where my comments could be perceived as critical of the bench, because at some point I'm going to be back in front of a judge. I'm still a practicing attorney in the state of Colorado. License is still, at least at the moment, still good to go. And who knows when I'll continue to be in front of a court, but it'll probably be in a trial setting. I do think about things like that, but man, if you can't have conversations where you're skeptical and scrutinizing of the judiciary simply because you're afraid of how they might rule against you, isn't that the exact bias that we're trying to squeeze out of this system? Here's another text. Does this create the opportunity of a retrial? Maybe. I mean, Frank from Golden had said he thinks that this is grounds for an appeal. I'm going to defer to Frank because Frank sounds much smarter than I am on these civil issues. I've just not seen it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I'll ask someone smarter than me to go look into that. Here's someone that texts in, you convinced me with Jenna Griswold. Another text. If it's only America where this happens and America is the only, oh, that's from yesterday. I'm sorry. Here's the text. Your show is just so good. When you guys go back and forth like this, it makes for great radio. And this coming from the godless heathen lefty. So Billy, it sounds like we have at least the one fan so far. And then there was a text about Ron DeSantis and his special boots. Jeez Louise. Thanks, Alexa. Billy, I'm thinking about shifting topics here when we come out of the break, but I didn't want to do it until I allowed you the opportunity to weigh in on this, because during the breaks, you and I have been going back and forth on this. We've been having the conversation. I don't want to just pull the plug and be like, peace.
No, this is a tough one, because I do think that, I wish that we could have captured the 20 minutes before the show.
Oh, me too.
That was really good. That was
fantastic. That had a lot more Clarence Thomas in it too.
Yeah, it did. And that's where I get in this. This to me seems unethical. And I would prefer for the judge to step away, but because it is a small amount, it's not necessarily significant to me. And I don't like the whataboutism, but I think that what I would do is, if we're having a question about ethics and bias inside of the court, I think it has to expand into conversations around Clarence Thomas and other people on the judiciary. As far as I just had a conversation with you off air, this last one, that it's very funny. And you mentioned how the Colorado, judicial branch doesn't really want anybody looking at them, which is weird because they want all the facts and everything else. And they want to make sure they have everything in front of them. But then when we want to have any scrutiny, no looking behind the curtain, which I find very ironic and difficult for me to wrap my head around. And so I think if we talk about ethics behind the bench, it has to be more expansive. And it has to go a little larger as to whether or not what happened in instances like with Clarence Thomas, does that then constitute bias or anything else or compromise? I don't go nearly as far as Ken earlier saying that it was a bribe. That's not been proven at all, not a bribe. And you very accurately have pointed out that drawing a direct line from the billionaires making the donation to Clarence Thomas and rulings is difficult, not impossible, but it does require maybe some leaps between numbers. If we were doing the whole connect the dots, it might make us skip 1 or 2 numbers, which does make me uncomfortable. I don't think you can draw the direct line. I believe there can be bias there, and I believe there's bias in this case. And I think
you're talking about too the appearance, which that's
awful.
the problem.
That is the problem.
I'll say this: at least we have, because of the disclosure laws regarding contributions, we at least know this took place, so we can have the conversation. The great weakness, I think, with the U.S. Supreme Court and what happened with Clarence Thomas is he didn't turn it over. He didn't provide it. It wasn't transparent. It had to be discovered by journalists and others and whistleblowers or whatever. And that makes it a problem. We should get to know when you're on the Supreme Court of the United States, we should get to know when you start accepting things that are, I don't know, worth more than $10,000 or something like that. I mean, even if it's a friend, who cares? Why can't we know that?
Yeah. Why? And the issue is, why would it be against the rules to know? Why would you not want to disclose that? And that's the weird part. And the fact you and I have both had 4 children's, and it is interesting.
That we know of.
Yeah. That's, with the kids that if they're excited about something and think it's wonderful, they will not shut up about it. But if they don't tell you about it, there's an implicit of ew, I shouldn't be doing this. Like if they did well on the science test, they're telling you about it. If they didn't do well on the science test, you're gonna go, so how was science today? And they go, science? Wait a minute. Is that a class I'm taking? You had a test today.
Was that today?
Did I have a test? I don't know what happened. Yeah. So
how did it go? How did it go?
How did
they're just repeating the question.
Such a hard question.
Yeah. Hard to say.
I know. Hard to
Relative
say.
to what?
Yet. Yeah. We don't know yet. The grades aren't back yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing that by not disclosing it in all these cases, that it's an issue. And I really dislike people that are sitting on the bench or even want to sit on the bench giving political donations to either candidates or to causes. To me, that smells bad. It just smells funny. Yeah, I understand that you have a First Amendment right, and I respect that. And understand that you, in that magical black robe, you have politics and you have decisions, but your role in our society is to come forward without that and to be able to be one of those few people that can strip away the bias. And by you making these donations, it leads you to believe there's bias and that you're leaning into the bias. That's hard. It's hard.
That's tough. We had that, by the way, we saw that again with a judge who ruled against Advance Colorado's lawsuit on how this HH thing happened.
Oh, yeah. That was
She had been super politically active and contributing and all this other stuff leading up to almost the moment she took the bench. And it's a problem. It's short-sighted. And if you're a judicial nominating commission, if you're the governor, you should be scrutinizing these things too. You can't just pass the buck and say, I hope you're doing the right thing. I would look and say, you want to be a judge. And this particular judge, by the way, I told Billy I'd look at this. I told you would too. I found it. This isn't her first time up to bat. Frank from Golden was right. She was selected back in August of 2021 to go up to the governor. She was one of 3 names, did not get chosen. And now fast forward another year and she puts in again. That means for at least a couple years, she has been aware of her interest in being on the bench. And since then, she's given at least one contribution, and that was to Jenna Griswold. That one, outside of this case, that one doesn't bother me as much because I don't know that you would expect as a district court judge in Denver that you're going to see the Secretary of State. It's possible. But AG, damn, yeah, you expect to see the AG.
Yeah, you do. And the other part that just, again, it smells funny to me is if you want to be a higher level judge or you want to get involved, even if you're a lawyer and you want to get involved in the judiciary, if you are making these type of political campaign contributions, it gives the impression of you wanting to ingratiate yourself into those people that could be responsible for elevating your name to that list and that level.
You know what,
it
Billy?
Smells
you
wrong.
Have just now brought up another area of inquiry, and that is, did she seek a letter of recommendation or an email or a call from Big Phil to Big Jared?
Or even Jenna.
Or even Jenna.
Griswold, because Secretary of State,
damn, we should get to know that.
Yeah, we should. And that's why I dislike this. Is it feels wrong. It feels like someone that had said maybe the first time around I wasn't properly connected. And so perhaps by making certain treatises into certain areas of society and donating money into certain areas, that maybe next time around the skids are greased a little bit more, because we know this happens. It is not a secret. It is not a secret that if your last name is Bush, it has different access to politics. It's not a secret that if your last name is Gates or Coors, you have different access to business. That's kind of what we've seen. So yeah, this one, it
in the interest of full disclosure, based on this list I got from the Secretary of State, she did give $500 to Phil when he was running against me. So that, just notice that now, by the way, but it doesn't change my opinion on this at all. It doesn't change my opinion on the fact that she's unbiased and competent and smart. And all. It doesn't change any of that stuff. And it also doesn't change my opinion that it was a mistake to not recuse. It was just an unforced error in this particular case. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break, and we're going to come back. We're going to continue to have the conversation. Another caller on the line. Got a couple more texts. Want to tell you about Joyce Tolliver and her husband Brent. They have Roll 'em Out shelves. These are the folks that make your kitchen and your laundry room and your bathroom, and you know what? Any place that has cabinetry. These are people that make these things more useful, more accessible, makes your life more efficient and pleasurable. These are the devices that increase your quality of life and your enjoyment of your home. And it comes at such a cost-effective way. And by the way, you can rely upon, go to the website, rollemoutshelves.com, and M is EM, rollemoutshelves.com, and see all the testimonials. They're limitless. I mean, these guys have, like, if there was a 6-star rating, they'd have it because they have all 5-star reviews. 100% satisfied customers. How's that possible? It's possible if you're Brent and Joyce Tolliver and you've been kicking butt on the customer service side of these things forever. Now, here's the deal. If you schedule an in-home estimate today, you get your first rollout shelves installed at no charge. That's an $80 value. There's really no reason not to check them out online. There's also no reason not to call and have them come out and do the free estimate for you. 303-475-9601. 303-475-9601. That's Roll 'em Out Shelves at rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, we'll get to Bruce, the other texts that are coming in. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
Subtle perfection here on Halloween. If only Billy were doing the actual time warp dance, it would complete things. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS, final half hour of the show. Billy says he can do the dance. We're on the Rumbles and the YouTube. Are you? Do we need the music for you to do the dance so people can see it? Oh my goodness, he's just doing it. If it were a Halloween song, we could go to YMCA. Oh my God, he's doing the hips. Are you about to bust something? Listen, Billy, whatever pain you're feeling in your hips and knees as a result of that, we have QC Kinetics to help take care of that.
I have dozens upon dozens of filmings of that. I've gone to numerous occasions. I have danced in the aisles.
Oh my God.
I've been
to it twice. That's it.
Oh, I can do the
late
dance,
shows,
baby.
like midnight showings, but I've been to it twice.
I can do it. All right, sorry, back to you.
And I went to it at one point with oh man, this is going to sound super, super scandalous, and I don't mean it to be. One of the times that I went, I was with a buddy who was at the time kind of sort of seeing Stefan's future wife. Oh yeah, this was back in high school, and she was. That is a small world, friends, that this thing comes up in that way. But I was being serious about Billy and his joints and stuff when he started doing that sort of hula hoop motion with his hips. Instantly, I grabbed for the phone and started dialing 911 because I thought we're about to see something come loose here, and probably some screams followed by that. Nonetheless, if you are at a place where your joints hurt, and that's real, that we can joke about it all you want, but if you are dealing with chronic pain in your knees or your hips or any other joint, you're probably debating what to do about it. You don't have to debate. What you need to do is arm yourself with information. So yeah, go online and look at stuff. Never make a decision based on that. Go to your doctor. I recommend that. Go to your doctor. Talk to them. Neither of those things are going to give you the best option. The best option is to call the medical experts there at QC Kinetics at 303-900-8986. And I'll give you the number a couple more times. That's because they deal with regenerative medicine. And that is using parts of your body to fix parts of your body. What's better than that? Outpatient, it's a needle. It's not long downtime. It's not pills. And you start to feel the relief almost instantly. You can check them out at qckinetics.com. I would. That's where I'd go, qckinetics.com. But honestly, I'd have the conversation with them at 303-900-8986. What a great use for your HSA and your FSA funds. 303-900-8986. Get to living pain-free. Let's go right back to the phone lines here. Bruce, you're on 710 KNUS. Bruce, what do you think?
Hey, good morning. Want to frame this. You're talking about the judge in the Trump off the ballot issue.
Yeah.
Just want to frame it because I've only been listening bits and pieces for the last 20, 25 minutes, so I might not get it right.
Sure.
You're
I feel the same way.
You're suggesting that she recuse herself because she donated $100 to Jenna Griswold, $100 or some small amount of money to some anti-insurrectionist group. I know I'm mischaracterizing.
It was $100 to that group, $250 to Jenna, and over $1,000 to the Attorney General.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So the question, she's relatively new on the bench.
True.
Does she have any judgments or adjudications that would indicate that she would be biased?
Don't know, but I'm going to presume no. And I'm going to presume she isn't biased. I'm presuming that.
Okay. You've just gotten to my point. Why are we saying that she should recuse herself just based upon essentially de minimis donations? Granted,
here's why. Let me read you the rule. It's Colorado Code of Judicial Conduct 2.11, subsection A. First words of the entire rule. A judge shall disqualify herself in any proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. And the example that I'd given in the past was, look, if you're a defendant in a case, Bruce, and you come to court and I'm at the other table and you found out that the judge had contributed to my campaign, how good do you feel about that judge's ability to be impartial? And how would an outsider view it? Go ahead.
I personally would not feel good about it, but having listened to that citation that you just read, essentially, you're presuming guilt.
No. I'm
and,
not presuming.
you know,
I'm not
so-
presuming it. I'm
No,
saying
okay,
might reasonably be questioned. So might
I
reasonably
don't-
question.
I wouldn't reasonably question in my standard, and I think I'm reasonably. I am biased, but I can be impartial. My question for you is, can a judge not be impartial and make a fair judgment because the person donates $1,000 to Jennifer Griswold?
And you're right to ask that question. I presume her impartiality. But if the standard were a judge shall disqualify herself in which her impartiality is, blah, blah, that's one thing. And by the way, that is a standard. But this is might reasonably be questioned. And who's doing the questioning here? I'm talking about a member of the public. So just listen to this out loud when you say it. You're Donald Trump, right? For all intents and purposes, you're sitting at one table in that courtroom. To your left, you look across the room and you see a Secretary of State who the judge has given money to. She is being represented by an attorney general who the judge has given money to. And she herself has given money while she was waiting to put on the robe after she was appointed to an organization that declares that January 6th was insurrectionist and Republicans are to blame. And one of the things she has to decide is, was it an insurrection? And what role did this Republican president and potentially future president play in that insurrection? Are you telling me that as an outsider looking in, you go, nope, that looks good to me?
This outsider would not jump to the conclusion of this is hanky. That's just this outsider. Again, based on, well, it's actually two things. In this particular case, we know it's going to get appealed. Either side loses.
Correct.
They're going to appeal. So that's not the right reason to say, all right, let's give this judge a pass. That's not the right reason. But we know the appeals are going to happen one way or the other. And ultimately, it's going to be adjudicated at a much higher level.
I think that's true.
Let me give you this example. Will this, if it is appealed, will it go to the state Supreme Court?
God, now you're testing my incompetence on the appellate practice because
as
the DA, when you get a felony conviction, the case immediately goes to the AG's office to defend the appeal. So there are people in the office that are much smarter than I am. They're called employees, and they would know the answer to that. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to presume that it would.
Okay, so that being said,
state Supreme Court.
And I would guess
not
that
US.
because this is a state case. This is not a federal case.
No, but you're right. It's a state case, but because it is an interpretation of the 14th Amendment, guaranteed this is going to end up in federal court in front of the U.S. Supreme Court if it gets that far, if they take cert. Yeah.
I agree. I'm not going to that point yet, but let's say it does go to the state Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You don't think most of those judges should recuse themselves based upon their past history, based upon the citation that you just read?
No, I don't. Unless someone can come
Why
out.
Not? Those guys are freaking biased.
What's the bias? What's the even suggestion of bias?
Their past history.
What's their past history that would suggest that? Tell me what you know.
I cannot give you specific examples, and that's my failing.
No. But if you don't know, that's okay. But I'm telling you, listen. I know 3 of the justices from having worked with them over the years. One is the Chief Justice. The other is Judge Samore, who I try to roar in front of, and one is Will Hood, who was my chief deputy for a couple of weeks when I worked in Arapahoe before getting called to active duty after September 11th. None of those guys that I know of have participated in the near term in anything political by giving support with their name, anything like that. So if the question is, hey, if someone gave to any candidate in the past, is that grounds for disqualification? No. But this happened to these specific individuals in the courtroom and to that organization within the last year.
Okay, let me ask this, and this I do not know, so I'm guessing here. So I might be talking out of my body part. If you get the did the state Supreme Court adjudicate Prop HH on the ballot?
I don't know that the Supreme, this is where I wish I had Michael Fields on speed dial for this morning. I don't know that the Supreme Court weighed in, but if they did, they ruled in favor of the legislature on the HH thing. And I think that's what happened.
And I think that is what happened as well. And no reasonable interpretation of Colorado law, no reasonable, unbiased interpretation of Colorado law says Prop HH should be on the ballot in its current form. It doesn't. Talk to Michael Fields about that. But you talk to the other side and they'll say, oh yeah, it's good. You talk to the governor.
But I don't want it to turn into, if I disagree, it's a product of bias. I don't believe that they ruled that way because of bias. I just think we have a different interpretation on the law. I mean, that's.
And so now you're going back in essential, I think, supporting my argument. What if she comes out with a judgment, an adjudication that you don't agree with, the generic you, but it is good and foundational under the law? Is she biased? Should she have recused herself?
Well, hold on. Two different questions. Is she biased? Yeah. No. Should she have recused herself? Yes. And I say that because of the language of this judicial code rule, this 2.11. It's not, did you reach the right result for the right reasons? It's, could your impartiality reasonably be questioned? And so given those facts that I gave you, Bruce, is it unreasonable to go, man, I don't know if that's the right judge for this case, given the way I laid it out, which are all facts that exist. If that's unreasonable, well, then she should continue to serve in this capacity, independent of any real bias. But even if she got to the right result for the right reasons, if any person could reasonably question that, you'd have to go, yeah, she should have tapped out, man. She should have found someone who didn't have that contribution background to come to this decision, Bruce,
can't argue with you. I see your point. My answer to that would be the statute or the citation should be rewritten that if any reasonable person, blah, 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 a commission should cause this judge to recuse. Don't leave it to the individual.
Well, except that we do that with everybody. We do that with DAs. We do that with attorneys in general. If you think that you have some ethical conundrum, we don't wait for someone else to tell you about it. You're supposed to self-select, like, I can't do this, or I need to report this to the bar. By the way, Bruce, thank you for ending on, I convinced you. At least that's where I'm going to leave it with you. Thank you for that phone call. That was also very thoughtful. Let's see if I can convince you of something else. Are you thinking about prettifying the interior of your house? Oh yeah, I'm talking maybe you're finishing the basement. Maybe it's a bathroom. Maybe it's the kitchen and it's countertop replacement time. Well, let me see if I can convince you Mitch Floria is the guy to do it. You can search around for other things. You're wasting your time because Mitch Floria has been doing this like nobody else has for a long time. I get more unsolicited positive feedback from listeners and friends who listen to the show, text just running into them that say, oh my God, you read for Mitch Floria. We use Mitch. Mitch is great. We refer to him to our neighbors and our neighbors use Mitch. They love him too. That's the way to go about this, is to reach out to Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. And all you have to do to get the best quality that you can is that you need to check out theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. You can also give him a call on his cell phone at 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. He'll give you wholesale prices. That's just for being you. But for being you, the listener of The George Show, he'll throw in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, he'll throw in the sink for free. 303-386-5919. That's Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. When we come back, it'll be you and me, Billy, Frank, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. If you're going to go door to door with your kids or your grandkids, you may find yourself having some aches and pains after going up and down all of those stairs to collect your treats. One way to quickly reduce the chances of that, or certainly mitigate against the impact of it, is to go with our friends at UltraCur, a free 3-day sample of UltraCur. I can't stop singing these guys' praises, largely because I've used them. I've used the UltraCur product. It is a patented all-natural curcumin-based supplement that it addresses inflammation. It addresses detoxification. It addresses all of those things that you would want something all natural to do. It doesn't change anything else about your DNA. It's not an injection that, serves to get rid of COVID or whatever it claims. It's not like that at all. All natural stuff. And these guys have the patent formula to do it. Here's the big part. Go to natural grocers and you have to find the Vitamin Manager. You can't find it on your own. Got to go to the Vitamin Manager for the obvious reason. If they set out all the free samples, some dude or dudette's going to show up and grab them all because this stuff is like magic, man. So go there, ask them for the 3-day sample. They'll give it to you. You can ask them for another one. They'll give you another one too, to give to a friend or a loved one or someone else you care about. And then step back, man, because 50% of everybody that uses this stuff experiences pain relief and certain other benefits within 48 hours. Of that group, 50% experience relief within 2 hours. It costs you nothing but the effort to go to the natural grocers. And then once, of course, you find out, hey, this stuff works for me the way Billy and I did, then you go to getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Let's get right back to the phone lines. We'll go to Frank. You're on 710 KNUS. Frank?
Hey, good morning, George.
Hey,
Hey,
sir.
I got a hat trick going, all 3 Franks this morning.
It was a Frank show. Let's be frank.
Yeah, that's pretty rare because there's not a lot of Franks in the world.
That's right.
Didn't appreciate being called a cult member by one of the Franks, so I'll just say that. The thing is, this conversation this morning just magnifies part of why I believe the way I do about draining the swamp. Because to attorneys, I'll make you guys all cult members now. To the cult of attorneys, it's more important. The argument's more important than the result. As an engineer, the result is more important than the argument to me. And you guys can argue this stuff all day long, but I guess my question is, what a monumental waste of time this whole thing with all these suits against Trump. The Constitution, the founding fathers already said there's an impeachment process. That's how we deal with a bad president. And he went through 2 of them. And not only that, but he went through 2 of them through a bunch of lying sacks of doo-doo. They lied about everything, and now we just all of a sudden forgot about that.
Frank,
it's just absurd, George.
Couple thoughts on this, and we're running out of time. I wish we could have a longer conversation, but one, this isn't a swamp issue because it's right here in Denver. But
Sure
2, clearly there are some things we'd want the court to weigh in on. And if someone decided to run for president and they weren't a natural born citizen, you and I would say, yeah, I want the court to step in and keep them from being on the ballot.
That happens to be in the Constitution, my friend.
No, I
You
get
have
it.
to be,
but
35 years old or 36 or
but
more?
the other thing that's in the Constitution is that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It's not like they're making up what those words say. They're just trying to apply them at a level and through a method of due process I don't think is sufficient. By the way, Frank, thank you, man. I appreciate the call. Good luck with the cult tonight. I'm kidding. It's a happy Halloween time. Billy and I, we're going to talk about candy. It's just not going to be today. Hey, stick around, listen to the rest of the big guys, and then get live and local with Deb and Steph and George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.